Chapter 2193. Beastie also joins the battle. 1. The Reverend God was filled with suspicion. As he was thinking about this, he fed the 3 unconscious Reverend God pills to them, and they quickly woke up. After the 3 of them woke up, they were in a daze for a moment. When they were slightly more awake, they looked down at their injuries and were surprised to find that they had all recovered. They looked at each other in disbelief. Then, they all turned to look at the Reverend God who had fed them the pill. The hierarch did not expect Lung Ruakshu's elixir to be so effective. Based on their injuries, they should have recuperated properly even after taking the elixir. However, by the looks of it, their injuries had completely healed. Long Chun, you saved us. Where's that damn girl? And where's the guy who injured me? Don't tell me you let them escape. The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan looked at the Reverend God and roared. He had just regained consciousness and only saw his own people. Therefore, he naturally ignored Lung Ruashue and the others. Moreover, he did not turn around. When he saw Long Ju's calm face, he thought that the matter had been settled. When Long Ju heard what the old Phoenix ancestor said, he quickly gave him a look. However, the old Phoenix with a bad temper didn't seem to notice it. He even asked with a concerned look, Long Ju, what's wrong with your eyes? Are you cramping up? Long Ju really wanted to kick him when he heard this. Fuck, how blind was this person? He couldn't even tell when she gave him a look. Cramps? He wasn't having a cramp. He wanted to beat up this old Phoenix who had no eyes. Seeing that, Long Ju was so angry that he did not want to bother with the unlucky old Phoenix. Lung Ruashue could only reply on his behalf kindly. I'm the one who saved you. We didn't run. We were just waiting for you. Upon hearing this, the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan quickly turned his head and saw Lung Ruashue smiling at him. Then he saw the demon from the corner of his eyes. Instantly, his fiery red phoenix eyes were filled with hatred. In the next second, he charged towards Lung Ruashue and the demon without even thinking. Seeing this, the demon directly kicked him back the moment he got close. Bang! With a loud sound, the tall and strong, human-shaped old phoenix just happened to hit the transparent barrier. Then it slid down the barrier and fell to the ground, fainting again. Long Ju could not help but cover his face when he saw this. AI, wasn't this self-inflicted? After living for so many years, why was this old phoenix still so impulsive? Long Han secretly sighed to himself, feeling extremely sympathetic towards this old phoenix. All of a sudden, he wasn't sure if he should agree to Lung Ruakshu's new suggestion. Glancing at the situation and strength on his side, he felt that the confidence of winning on his side did not seem to be so great. Thanks, however, even though he didn't explicitly agree to Lung Ruakshu's suggestion, he had already given the pills to these 3 fellas. If he were to go back on his word now, he would probably end up in a bad state, right? Thinking of the evil man's brutal means, he couldn't help but shiver. Then, he made up his mind and thought, forget it. Now that things had come to this, it was already too late for them to stop. Previously, they had blamed the other party for their despicable means and wanted to break them one by one. Now that the other party had given them a new opportunity, if they refused, wouldn't they be too ungrateful? Therefore, they could only brace themselves and accept the battle. As he thought of this, he turned to Lung Ruashue and said, We agree to your suggestion, but our companion has been knocked unconscious by the person beside you. In other words, he still needed a healing pill, because there were only 3 pills in the jade bottle that Lung Ruashue had given him. Take it. Without another word, Lung Ruashue threw a healing pill to Long Ju. Then, she said to the demon in a coquettish manner, Evildoer, you've caused me to lose an additional healing pill. It doesn't matter. We can put the bill on them and ask their king for it. The demon laughed. That's a good idea. Lung Ruashue nodded her head in agreement. However, when Long Ju heard this, he was shocked. The pill in his hand felt like a hot potato. He was at a loss. What do you mean? After a long while, Long Ju finally reacted and asked carefully. What I mean is that they need to pay for the pills they eat. And I will put this debt on your king's head. When the time comes, I will find him to settle the bill. Lung Ruashue explained with a smile. Looking at the tiny pill in his hand that was emitting an alluring fragrance, Long Ju really felt that it was a hot potato this time. However, he couldn't just reject it. After all, they didn't have such effective healing pills. Forget it. Anyway, the money wasn't going to be on his head, so why was he thinking so much? With that thought in mind, he fed the pill to the old ancestor without any burden. This time, he stared unblinkingly at the old phoenix. As soon as the old phoenix woke up, he immediately held it down. Then, he whispered to the old phoenix, "Calm down, or else, if you faint again, I'm afraid you'll have to sell yourself to pay off your debts." "What do you mean?" The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan was shocked. What did this have to do with him fainting? That's right, it was Long Chun who had saved him. You fainted twice, and your injuries were not light. I also gave you 2 healing pills, and those pills were provided by Miss Long, so you have to pay. So, you must not faint again. Long Ju cautiously reminded. "Old dragon, tell me clearly, what is going on?" The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan was a little confused when he heard Long Chen's words. He couldn't understand. He was in a faint. Why did he need that little brat to provide him with the pills? Furthermore, it was a pill that required payment. Could it be that this old dragon had sold him out when he was unconscious? Yup, what's going on? The white-robed man and the other reverend god were also confused. When Long Ju saw the situation, he could only tell them the cause and effect of the matter. However, the 3 people's reactions were completely different. The white-robed man had a complicated expression on his face, while the hierarch who had been killed by the monster was terrified. The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan was furious and asked hurriedly, "Did you agree to their request?" Long Han nodded and thought, "Otherwise, how could you have woken up? How could you agree to their request? You're clearly taking advantage of the beast's perilous state." The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan roared, "How are we taking advantage of the beast?" Upon hearing this, Lung Roashua didn't give Long Ju a chance to reply and asked curiously, You, the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan stammered as she looked at Lung Roashua, who was smiling at her. Chapter 2194. Shosho also joins the battle, too. In reality, he had no idea how the other party had taken advantage of the beast's perilous state. However, when he heard Long Ju say that he had agreed to start over, he felt extremely uneasy. Thus, he had blurted out those words without even thinking. Now that he heard Lung Ruaksha's question, he felt even more certain that his sixth sense was right. This cunning human definitely didn't have good intentions. Don't be nervous. As long as you don't lose your temper, we won't do anything. Come, let's talk slowly. Do you want to drink some water first? Lung Ruashue consoled this obviously nervous old phoenix. Her attitude was so good that this old ancestor of the Phoenix clan was not used to it. The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan blinked her fiery red eyes and was stunned for a moment before she said, "You shouldn't have taken the opportunity to sell us pills. Oomph. We don't have any intention of buying it. So you're saying you want to renege on your debt?" When Lung Ruashua heard this, she blinked her beautiful eyes and asked indifferently, "I'm not going back on my word. I just didn't want to buy it." The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan emphasized, "What's the difference? You've already eaten the pill, and now you're telling me that you don't want to buy it? Then, how about we restore the 3 of you to your original state?" Lung Ruakshu's beautiful eyes swept across the reverent god who had eaten her elixir as she asked calmly. Ugh! These words made Long Ju break out in cold sweat. Heavens, it couldn't be what he was thinking, right? As for the man in white and the reverent god who had been killed in an instant, they trembled in unison when they heard Lung Ruakshu's words. Their faces slowly turned pale. Only the energetic old phoenix asked in a silly manner, "Return to its original state? How much have you recovered?" Uncle Long couldn't help but burst into laughter at his words. He didn't expect this old phoenix to be so out of line. However, he was so silly that he was quite cute. "What are you laughing at?" Hearing the laughter, the old ancestor of the Phoenix tribe was enraged again. It's nothing. It's nothing." Uncle Long waved his hand. He didn't want to become the old phoenix's target. In fact, he hated fire. Seeing that Uncle Long was showing signs of giving in, the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan turned her gaze back to Lung Ruoxue and waited for her reply. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she smiled faintly and said, "It'll restore the three of you to the appearance you were before you ate the pill." How about it? Didn't that mean that he would have to beat them up again? This time, the old phoenix finally understood what Lung Ruoxue meant. However, even though he understood, the anger in his heart rose to the height of half a person. Just as his anger was about to reach the sky, he saw the demon and immediately quieted down. Woo, that perverted man. One kick sent him flying. How was he going to face others in the future? He didn't know that the man in white and the reverent god who was killed by the monster didn't end up much better than him. Therefore, he started to blame himself. As the other two parties involved, Lung Ruoxue's suggestion made their hearts tremble. In order to express their attitude, the two of them immediately said in unison, "We agree to start over." In fact, they had no choice but to agree. However, if the six of them joined forces, they still had a chance of winning. At the very least, they were much stronger than them in individual combat. In a one-on-one battle, they really had no chance of winning. The other two thought to themselves. Thanks as a result, the opinion of the Phoenix clan's ancestor was ignored, and the poor old phoenix was immersed in its own thoughts. Before the battle started, Lung Ruoxue carefully explained the details of the battle. "The six of you and the beasts behind you can all take action. As for us, we won't be the only ones who will take action. You don't have any objections, right?" Lung Ruoxue asked indifferently. "No objections, but I want to know, who else will be joining the battle?" Long Han asked with a serious expression, but his eyes couldn't help but turn to Azure. This rabbit's strength was unfathomable. If it also joined the battle, it would be very disadvantageous to them. Although Long Ju did not say it out loud, his thoughts could not be hidden from Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue smiled and said, "Other than a few of us, my beastie will also participate in the battle. Of course, this rabbit is not included. It's not participating." Hearing this, Long Ju heaved a sigh of relief. As for Lung Ruoxue's beasties, he did not care much about them. This was because he was not sure how many beasties Lung Ruoxue had. When Uncle Long heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he was already laughing in his heart. These guys would regret it later. Shui'er's beasts might not be as many as the beasts in front of them, but their combat power was not bad. It was not something that this motley crew could compare to. Because Uncle Long knew how many beastie Lung Ruoxue had, he was not worried and was even prepared to watch a good show. However, Uncle Lien and Lien Zhou were not sure. The moment the two of them heard that other than the few of them, only Lung Ruoxue's beastie would be participating in the battle, they became anxious again. The difference in numbers between the two sides was a little too big, right? They would be exhausted to death if they were to fight in turns. Moreover, the other party had 6 extremely powerful reverent god level experts. In this case, wasn't the situation very disadvantageous to them? Although the two of them were a little anxious, they didn't dare to say anything when they saw that Dongfang you didn't have any reaction. They didn't want to offend the little girl. If that happened, they would be the unlucky ones. So, they could only endure it. However, this feeling of not being able to say anything was really uncomfortable. Lung Ruoxue glanced at Uncle Lien and Lien Zhe from the corner of her eyes and laughed to herself. Then, she said to Long Ju with a calm expression, "We can start the war." As she spoke, Azure also withdrew his barrier. However, a new barrier immediately enveloped everyone, including Lung Ruoxue and the others. In Azure's words, he was afraid that the other party would run away. When the other party saw that Lung Ruoxue and the rest were in the same boundary as them, even if they were unhappy with Song, they could not voice it out. After all, they were just... The beasts who had regained their freedom were like ferocious tigers that had been released from their cages. Each of them strode forward valiantly and with high spirits. They stood in front of Lung Ruoxue and the others. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue's mind shifted, and she moved her spirit beasts out of her bangle. The moment the spirit beasts appeared, they all fought to be the first to burrow into Lung Ruoxue's embrace. Those who could not get a good position would try to rub against Lung Ruoxue's calf to show their closeness. Whether it was Uncle Lien and the others or Long Han and the other opponents, they were all dumbfounded and speechless for a long time when they suddenly saw so many beasts in front of them. After a long while, only then did Long Han return to his senses and stammered, They are all your beastie? Oh my God, wasn't this number a little too much? Moreover, there were dragons, phoenixes, and even a white tiger among these beasts. How is this possible? Chapter 2195. ORCC also joins the battle. 3. Previously, when Lung Ruoxue had summoned the two phoenixes, they had yet to figure out their origins. Seeing so many at once, their hearts couldn't take it. Yup, they are all. Lung Ruoxue replied calmly, not feeling that this was something to be surprised about. It's just a few more beastie contracts. This is impossible. It was impossible for a human to contract so many beasties. And these phoenixes, where did they come from? When the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan heard Lung Ruoxue's words, she roared in disbelief. She had seen the two phoenixes earlier, but she had not had the time to ask who they were. Is it impossible, or are you just too ignorant? As for where they came from, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. Lung Ruoxue raised her brows and laughed evilly. In reality, this was not all of her beastie. Some of the beasts stayed in the land of evil demons, and some were in seclusion. However, those who had nothing to do had basically all come out, and the phoenixes came out in a complete group. She knew that the other party had been frightened, but could she be blamed for this? There was no way Lung Ruoxue would take the blame for causing them to be frightened. Furthermore, releasing the beast from the bangle was not just to intimidate the other party. At the same time, it was also for Uncle Lien and the others to see, who asked them to have no confidence in themselves. As it turned out, Uncle Lien and the others were indeed frightened, and he was quite frightened. This was because Lung Ruoxue had too many beastie by her side. It was so many that they could not imagine it. The Phoenix matriarch was once again rendered speechless by Lung Ruoxue's words. At this moment, the only man in black among the six of them said calmly, "It's indeed impossible. Humans don't have such strong spiritual power, so the number of beasts that humans can contract is limited. So, I really want to know how you did it." "Oh no, I only know that I can contract them. It can't be considered that I've contracted them. It should be them who have contracted me," Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. Most of her beasts came to her on their own accord. To put it bluntly, she was the one who was being relied on. When a man in black heard this, he only glanced at Lung Ruoxue indifferently. He did not continue to question her about the origins of those beasts. Instead, he said, "Let's start." "All right." Lung Ruoxue nodded. The group battle began. Many beastie beasts had already secretly found their own opponents, and were only waiting for the battle to officially begin. No one knew who started first, but soon, both sides were engaged in a chaotic battle. The 6 Reverent God level experts from the other side had their eyes on Uncle Long and the rest. As for Lung Ruoxue and the demon, they were both ignored by the beasts. In fact, during the battle, the other party's beasts would intentionally distance themselves from Lung Ruoxue and the demon's territory. As a result, in the vast battle arena, the two of them were the only ones with the most space around them. They were the most idle. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue was depressed. What was the meaning of this? Discrimination? Why didn't anyone look for them to fight? The person she was looking for had immediately found an opponent for herself after realizing her intentions. This fact made Lung Ruoxue feel extremely aggrieved. Evildoer were being despised. Lung Ruoxue said listlessly as she leaned into the evildoer's arms. She had really suffered a blow. "It doesn't matter, well, spurn them too." The demon hugged Lung Ruoxue gently and comforted her. "That's right, Nyo. We also despise them." Azure also came over to console him. "But I want to fight." Lung Ruoxue's hands were itching for a good fight. She had thought that she could have a good fight, but who knew that these beasts would actually avoid harm? Was she really that scary? Lung Ruoxue carefully recalled. She didn't seem to have done anything shocking today, right? Although had dealt with 3 reverent gods before, 2 of them had been done by the demon, and the other one had been done by Feng Zhan and the others. He hadn't even had the chance to show off. Thinking of this, Lung Ruoxue became even more depressed. In reality, Lung Ruoxue didn't have any outstanding achievements today. However, she had a demon by her side, who would be so blind as to find trouble with her. Wasn't that just seeking death? The terrifying image of a demonic woman had already been deeply engraved in the other party's heart. Hence, they did not dare to lay their hands on the demonic woman, Lung Ruoxue. Otherwise, if they accidentally hurt Lung Ruoxue, that terrifying man would definitely not let them off. It was because of this that they instinctively avoided Lung Ruoxue. As for that evildoer, he should be the one to avoid him. In contrast to Lung Ruoxue's low spirits, Baby and the other beasts were having a great time. With their intelligence and tacit cooperation, the beasts that they thought were stupid were not their opponents at all. Therefore, it did not take long for many of the other side's beasts to be injured and withdraw from the battle. Thanks and Baby and the other beasts continued to work hard, joining forces to attack and dealing with the unlucky beasts they encountered one by one. One of the beastie saw that the situation was not good and simply lay on the ground and pretended to be dead. When Treasure and the other beasts saw this, they didn't expose them. Instead, they continued to attack other targets. After a long time, the other beasts on the battlefield were basically wiped out. Of course, those beasts were only seriously injured and not dead. This could also be considered as them showing mercy to their treasures. In an instant, the originally lively battle arena was left with only the 6 Reverent God level experts from both sides. Feng Zhan and the other beastie all found their own seats and became spectators. The 12 hierarch from both sides each took a corner and fought in pairs. Among the 6 people on Lung Ruoxue's side, Uncle Long and Dongfang Yu were in the best situation. The 2 of them had the easiest time. As for Uncle Lien, Lianjia, Dongfang Lin, and Bai Jing, they were having a harder time, especially the White Whale, whose opponent was the Phoenix clan's ancestor. As a beast of the sea, the White Whale itself hated beasts of the fire attribute. In addition, its strength on land was not as strong as it was in the water. Therefore, against the old Phoenix, it seemed to be a little bit of a force to follow. However, it naturally wouldn't give up so easily. It belonged to the type of person who would become more courageous as the battle progressed. Therefore, it was greatly provoked and went against the Phoenix clan's ancestor. There was even a sign that they wouldn't rest until one of them died. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but worry about the White Whale. That was because the White Whale's originally smooth body had been burned by the old Phoenix's natal flames until it was a little cracked. The most severely burned area was already oozing with red blood. This made Lung Ruoxue's heart ache. Following that, Lung Ruoxue leaped to the White Whale's side and blocked an attack from the Phoenix clan's ancestor for it. She then stuffed another pill into the White Whale's mouth. When the Phoenix clan's ancestor saw this, she immediately glared at it and said in a loud voice, "What are you doing? Do you want to fight the few with numbers? Even if I lose, I won't accept it. Not convinced? Do you think that you can be proud of winning in this situation? If you have the ability, you can go to the deep sea and fight it." Lung Ruoxue said with a look of disdain. The beasts in the sea did not have an advantage on land, not to mention that one of them had the water attribute and the other had the fire attribute. No matter how he looked at it, the White Whale was at a disadvantage. The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan was at a loss for words again. Other than glaring at Lung Ruoxue, he could not find any words to defend himself. I'm fine." The White Whale rubbed its large head against Lung Ruoxue's arm. "Little White Whale, can you let me have this guy?" Feng Zhan, who had been watching the show for a long time, suddenly interrupted. Bai Jing looked at Feng Zhan, then at the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan. He shook his head and said, "You can't." In fact, what it wanted to say was, "You're not this guy's match. Little White Whale, let it have it." Lung Ruoxue said, after some thought. When White Whale heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he thought about it for a moment and nodded in agreement. Following that, White Whale and Lung Ruoxue retreated from the battle. As for the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan, she was infuriated when she saw that her opponent had changed. "What are you guys doing? Is this a tag team battle?" The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan roared out in rage. He was extremely displeased with the fact that they had switched opponents halfway through their journey. After all, he had already seen the victorious Tian Huan draw closer to his side. If not for Lung Ruoxu's interference, he might have already won. The more she thought about it, the angrier the Phoenix ancestor became. The flames on her body instantly burned, turning half the sky red. Feng Zhan didn't even lift his eyes when he saw this. He just threw a pill to the man and said, "Don't say that I'm bullying you. Seeing that you've used up a bit of your divine power, they'll give you this divine power replenishing pill. This should be fine, right? W, what the hell are you doing?" Feng Zhan's words didn't satisfy the old Phoenix. Instead, it made him more cautious. He didn't know what this Phoenix was up to, and more importantly, this Phoenix looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen it before. In reality, Feng Zhan was doing this because his thoughts were similar to Lung Ruoxu's. He hoped that these beastie would accept their defeat. As a beastie that had a contract with Lung Ruoxu, it naturally knew Lung Ruoxu's intentions and was very willing to cooperate. Therefore, of course, it hoped that the Phoenix in front of it could enjoy the service of a home. However, it seemed that the Phoenix was a little frightened. Ugh, had it overreached itself? Feng Zhan was a little depressed. He was also blaming this little guy for not knowing what was good for him. Did it have to do this? He would have directly started beating him up. At that thought, Feng Zhan said in a bad mood, "What can I do? It's all because you guys are always unwilling to admit defeat. If you don't want to admit defeat, then let's fight again. It'll also replenish the divine power you used on the little white whale. If you lose again, you have nothing to say, right?" Chapter 2196:1 against 3-1. Do you think I will lose to you? The ancestor of the Feng clan laughed mockingly as he looked at Feng Zhan's strength. Although Feng Zhan was also a member of the Feng clan, he was weaker than the ancestor. How dare he say that he would have nothing to say if he lost? What a joke. How could he lose to a Phoenix whose strength was inferior to his? If this news were to spread, wouldn't he become a laughingstock in the divine realm? The more the old ancestor thought about it, the more she despised Feng Zhan. Feng Zhan, on the other hand, was very calm, and there was no sign of anger on his face. Then, Feng Zhan smiled faintly. "Little guy, it's good to be confident, but overconfidence is terrible. Although my strength is not as good as yours, I may not lose to you." Feng Zhan was very confident about this. Although there was a difference of 1 rank between him and this little Phoenix, who was it? It was the personal guard of the Phoenix King back in the day, and was considered a genius-level beast in the Phoenix clan. It was only a step away from becoming a godly, venerable rank beast. In addition to its deep foundation, it did not dare to say that it could defeat this little fellow with a 100% chance, but it was at least 50 to 60% confident. Thinking of this, Feng Zhan looked at the old ancestor with a gentle gaze, but he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. When the tiger is not at home, the monkey will become the king. After the Great War that happened hundreds of thousands of years ago, this young man had already become one of the Phoenix kind's ancestors. In the past, these little guys were still babies. Time really did not spare beasts. Feng Zhan felt that he was getting old, but he was still young. Especially after seeing this little fellow from the Phoenix clan, he was still excited. The old ancestor of the Feng clan felt the fire in Feng Zhan's eyes. He didn't know why, but he was extremely nervous. Why was this old Phoenix looking at him with such an ambiguous gaze? Could it be that she had some thoughts about him? In fact, he had found out the truth. Feng Zhan did have some thoughts about him, but of course it wasn't the kind that he was thinking about. But before he could think further, Feng Zhan flew into the air, circled around, and then swooped down at the old ancestor. Seeing this, the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan immediately returned to her original form and charged forward. In an instant, the 2 fiery red phoenixes tangled together, and the 2 phoenixes fiercely collided, scattering countless sparks and falling from the sky like meteors. In an instant, the temperature around them suddenly rose. When Lung Ruoxu and the rest saw this, they immediately moved to a safe area. The battle between the other 5 pairs of Reverend God-level spiritual beasts had also stopped, because of the two phoenixes that were fighting in their true forms. At this moment, they were all in human form. Therefore, the high temperature created by the two phoenixes made them extremely unhappy, especially Uncle Long. He was so angry that he wanted to curse. He was a beast in the water, and what he hated the most was fire. However, these two did not have any self-awareness at all. This was preposterous. The furious Uncle Long said to his opponent, "Let's discuss something. Let's stay away from them." He really couldn't take it anymore. Thanks, it was Long Ju who was fighting Uncle Long. After hearing Uncle Long's words, Long Ju nodded. Then, the two of them teleported in the direction furthest from the two phoenixes in tacit understanding. Although the temperature within 100 miles had risen because of the battle between the two phoenixes, it was naturally much stronger to be further away from them. Seeing this, the other Reverent God level cultivators also changed the battlefield and continued their battle. As a member of the audience, Lung Ruoxue was feeling extremely depressed. This was because the others were all engaged in a heated battle, while she could only watch from the side. This fact caused her emotions to be extremely unstable. When the demon saw this, he quickly pulled Lung Ruoxue into his arms and comforted her. Do you want me to play with you? No need. I'm going to wait and see who will win. He'll go fight with whoever wins. Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes scanned the 6 Reverent God level cultivators. She had already started to think about them. Among the 6 pairs of Reverent God level cultivators, according to Lung Ruoxue's observation, the one who would lose first would most likely be Lianjia. It was the hierarch who had been killed by the monstrous genius. Although he was no match for the monstrous genius, he could easily defeat Lianjia. After all, there was a clear difference in strength between a hierarch human and a hierarch beast. Unless a hierarch human was stronger than a hierarch beast, it would be difficult for a hierarch human to defeat a hierarch beast of the same level. As for Lianjia, he was slightly weaker than this hierarch of the beast race in terms of strength. Therefore, his defeat was only a matter of time. However, it was already not easy for Lianjia to persist for so long. Lung Ruoxue, who had been waiting for a long time, finally saw that Lianjia was showing signs of defeat. Without a second thought, she rushed forward and replaced Lianjia, who had exhausted his physical strength and divine power. "You can rest on the side. Leave this guy to me." Lung Ruoxue ordered Lianjia. Hearing this, Lianjia nodded his head and resentfully withdrew from the battle. The hierarch widened his eyes in anger and said in dissatisfaction, "Do you guys really want to take turns?" "Of course not. However, you haven't fought with us yet, so even if you win 1 or 2 rounds, you can't leave. Unless you beat us all to the ground, you won't be able to leave," Lung Ruoxue said honestly. This was a group battle to begin with. Lung Ruoxue smirked. Hearing this, the hierarch of the Beast Clan was so angry that he blew his beard and glared at them. Then, he said in disbelief, "Humans are really scoundrels. They can even say such words. You're a scoundrel just like this? Don't tell me that the 6 of you think that you can retreat in one piece after defeating one of us. Can I say that you guys are too naive and think too simply?" Lung Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and looked at her opponent innocently. She wanted these beastie to be convinced, but she had never thought of letting them leave. Since he was already here, he could only be her possession. No way. The pitiful hierarch was so angry that he almost vomited blood when he saw Lung Ruoxue acting innocent. Only now did he realize that the man and woman in front of him were not good people. They were indeed a family. One was brutal and violent, while the other was cunning and multi-layered. Now, he was very regretful. Why did he have to get involved in this mess? Isn't it better to hug your wife and child at home? Sob. At this moment, he wanted to cry, but had no tears. Seeing that her opponent did not react for a long time, Lung Ruoxue assumed that he had been provoked. Then, she said with a face full of sympathy, "Come, let's not waste any more time. Let's continue fighting." She had been waiting for a long time for an opponent to appear, so she couldn't let him go. At this moment, the hierarch, who had felt that he was very miserable finally reacted. Then, he said in a very aggrieved tone, "I just had a fight, so I can't fight you now. It's not fair to me." Chapter 2197:1 against 3, 2. Then what do you want? Lung Ruoshua blinked her eyes and asked, "I request to rest." The reverend god said matter-of-factly, "How long do you need to rest?" Lung Ruoshua was very patient. 1. The reverend god thought for a moment. Just as he said one word, he was interrupted by the anxious Lung Ruoshua. 1 minute, Lung Ruoshua said on purpose. The reverend god was speechless. He could only look at Lung Ruoshua, unable to say a word. He could not understand how this human woman could think of 1 minute. Was there a need for him to specifically request for 1 minute? Was he sick? Then 10 per minute? Lung Ruoshua asked again. His opponent, the reverend god, was still speechless. An hour? Lung Ruoshua saw that he was not saying anything and could only continue asking. 1 day. I want to rest for a day. I'll fight with you tomorrow. His opponent couldn't take it anymore and roared. His face was red as he glared at Lung Ruoshua. It was as if he would never let Lung Ruoshua off if she dared to reject him. Upon seeing this, Lung Ruoshua said in an infuriating manner, "It's only been a day. You spent so much effort just to ask for a day's rest. Hee. The requirements were really not high. However, I can't agree to that. I don't have that much time to waste on you." This time, the reverend god was so angry that he could not speak. He glared at Lung Ruoshua as if his eyes were spewing fire. However, Lung Ruoshua was not bothered at all. She continued, "I can give you 2 choices. 1, let you rest for an hour. 2, you could buy a divine power recovery pill from me, and we will fight immediately. Is there a third option?" Hearing this, the reverend god was stunned for a long time before he asked in a daze. "I'm sorry, I don't have it," Lung Ruoshua said with certainty. "Little guy, since Neo let you choose, you should quickly choose. What's the point of wasting time?" At this time, Azure interrupted. "Choose what?" He didn't want to choose any of them. A certain divine master thought to himself. He didn't want to fight with this human woman at all. However, he didn't dare to say this out loud. Otherwise, who knew what kind of tragedy would happen? Seeing that the reverend god in front of him wasn't decisive at all, Azure was a little angry and directly roared, "Otherwise, you can fight with me." Hearing Tsang's words, the hierarch's heart trembled. Fuck. He didn't want to mess with this rabbit even more. "Okay, I admit defeat, okay?" After thinking for a long time, the hierarch of the beast race said with a desperate look, "No!" Lung Ruoshua and Tsang shouted in unison. Once he finished speaking, Tsang happily jumped into Lung Ruoxu's arms and affectionately rubbed against her. He then said excitedly, "Girl, our hearts are as one as expected. Get lost." Cold's words infuriated Evil. Then, he chased after Cold and started fighting as if there was no one else around. Upon seeing this, Lung Ruoxu's face was filled with black lines. She thought to herself, "These 2 guys, why are you all so willful? You don't even know when to fight." Thanks on the other hand, the hierarch of the beast race was thinking, is this considered an internal strife? However, he didn't dare to ask the question in his heart. Moreover, he knew that if he really asked, this man and beast might point their spears at him. Thinking of this, he couldn't help rejoicing in his heart. However, how should he deal with this human woman in front of him? Looking at Lung Ruoxu's determined look, he was really having a headache. He couldn't understand why this woman had her eyes on him. I choose to rest for an hour. During this time, you can go and find someone else to fight." The dejected hierarch pondered for a long time before he came up with the idea of shifting the blame to someone else. He believed that the human woman would not keep an eye on him after fighting with someone else, so he could not care less about friendship at this time. "There's no rush. You can rest. He'll wait for you at the side. After we're done fighting, he'll go find whoever wins." Lung Ruoshua smiled when she heard the Supreme Divinity's suggestion. Hearing this, the reverend god immediately became listless. What was she doing sticking to him? The 2 of them stared at each other for the rest of the time. When Lung Ruoxue saw that her opponent wasn't saying anything, she naturally wouldn't try to strike up a conversation. Under her glare, the reverent god started to break out in cold sweat. Half an hour later, Dongfang Yu and Uncle Long had both defeated their opponents. The two of them came to Lung Ruoxue's side at the same time. Uncle Long even asked with a concerned look, "Little girl, did this guy bully you? Don't be afraid. Uncle Long is here. I will help you deal with him." The he that Uncle Long was referring to was the hierarch that Lung Ruoxue had her eyes on. When he heard this, his face turned black with anger. Dongfang Yu looked at the hierarch with sympathy and said, "Yes, count me in. Don't fight with me. I was the one who decided on this guy first." Lung Ruoxue panicked and said hurriedly, "Girl, you're a girl. It's not good for you to fight and kill. Let Uncle Long do it for you." Uncle Long said with a smile, "No, absolutely not. I haven't had enough fun today. You're not allowed to snatch it from me." When Uncle Long and Dongfang Yu saw this, the two of them actually laughed out loud at the same time, especially Dongfang Yu. Never in his dreams would he have thought that in such a critical moment, he would be able to talk and laugh so easily. His mood was so relaxed. This was simply too unbelievable. However, the unlucky hierarch's mood plummeted when he saw the three of them interacting so happily. He couldn't understand. What was this? Weren't they here to help? However, since they had arrived here, their actions had been restricted. They even had to listen to the other party's arrangements and how they fought. This had greatly hurt the pride of a certain supreme divinity who had always been able to call the wind and summon the rain in his clan. But what he didn't understand was why things had turned out this way. He probably wouldn't be able to figure it out in a short period of time. Originally, it was only Lung Ruoxue who was staring at him. Now, with the addition of the two strongest reverent god level cultivators, the pressure on him increased exponentially. Although the other party's line of sight was not on him at all, he still felt flustered and uneasy in his heart. Sure enough, not long after, another person from their side was defeated. It was the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan. The old Phoenix looked as if it had just suffered a huge blow, and the bright and beautiful feathers on its body had all dimmed down. The Phoenix clan's ancestor, who had taken on a human form, was even more dejected and listless, with his head drooped down, as if his mind had once again drifted away into outer space. To put it simply, he had been beaten silly. At this moment, only two pairs of reverent god level cultivators were still fighting. Chapter 2198:1 against 3:3. Immediately, everyone's eyes turned to the two pairs of reverent god level cultivators. One of them was the black-robed hierarch from the beast race, while the other was the white-robed man from the white tiger race. His opponent was Uncle Lien. The hierarch in black was more powerful than Dongfang Lin, so Dongfang Yu was quite pleased that Dongfang Lin had been able to hold on for so long. His younger brother had never liked to fight since he was young. However, his younger brother had grown up a lot during his imprisonment. At least, he now had the strength to fight against the hierarch of the beast race, who was known for his combat skills. As for Uncle Lien, his strength should be on par with that reverent god from the white tiger race. It would be normal for either of them to win or lose. However, based on the current situation, the battle was not in Uncle Lien's favor. After being imprisoned for so long, Uncle Lien's bodily functions and his grasp of the rhythm of the battle had clearly not recovered to his peak. On the other hand, the white-robed man was still able to deal with Uncle Lien with ease. As time passed, Uncle Lien's shunned power was gradually overdrawn. Not long after, Uncle Lien admitted defeat. However, even though the white-robed man had defeated Uncle Lien, he did not expect that his next opponent would be Lung Ruoxue. The man in white was stunned for a long time after hearing the bad news. He only came to his senses when the hierarch in black defeated Dongfang Lin and came to his side. "Long Ao, we still have to fight that girl." The white-robed man tugged at the hierarch's lapels as he cried, "Damn it, you let go of me." The hierarch in black, Long Ao, glanced at the man in white's hand and growled with a dark face. He ignored the man in white's words. Fuck, what was this? Did he have to be so girly? Long Ao cursed in his heart. The man in white noticed Long Ao's darkened face and knew that his actions were inappropriate. He quickly retracted his hand. Whoa, Long Ao is so fierce. Among the few of them, he was most afraid of Long Ao. Usually, when that guy glared at him, he would be as obedient as a wife. However, he still looked at Long Ao pitifully, hoping that he could give them an idea. He did not want to fight with that girl anymore. That wretched girl was too cunning. Long Ao sighed helplessly to himself. Then he turned his gaze to Lung Ruoxue and asked, "You still want to fight us?" "I'm not fighting with you guys. I'm fighting with the winner among you." Lung Ruoxue emphasized, "You want to fight 1 against 3? Or are we going to fight you 1 by 1? Long Ao asked after thinking for a while. He didn't feel that there was anything wrong with saying such things to a human who was only at the God Emperor level. His instincts told him that Lung Ruoxue was very strong. Therefore, he did not dare to let his guard down. As expected, when Lung Ruoxue heard his words, she smiled radiantly and praised him. "You're indeed the strongest among the 6 of you. Your ability to accept things is stronger than theirs. Thank you for the compliment. I just don't want to deceive myself. I know that you won't let us go so easily." Long Ao was very clear about this. He had never thought that he could leave after winning, because that was not realistic. In fact, when a human woman dared to suggest that they fight again, he knew that their ending was already set. The reason why the human woman did this was probably to make them feel better. Otherwise, she would not have to do this. If I say that I want to fight 1 against 3, will you think that I'm overestimating myself? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. "I won T." Long Ao replied with certainty. His answer not only surprised Long Chun and the others, but also Dongfang Yu and the others. "If that's the case, then let's fight 1 against 3. Let's not waste too much time. If I can't defeat you in 100 rounds, I'll let you go. I won't pursue the matter of you helping Rhyme, but if I win from now on, you must listen to my commands." "How is it?" Lung Ruoxue said confidently. "Good. If we lose, we'll recognize you as our master." Long Ao agreed readily. In fact, he also wanted to see what kind of trump card this young human woman had to have such courage. When Dongfang Yu, Uncle Lien, and Lianjia heard Lung Ruoxue's words, they were so nervous that their hearts were in their throats. Although Dongfang Yu kept warning himself to believe in Lung Ruoxue's decision, he was still a little worried. After all, the current situation was very good for them. Hence, he did not dare to imagine what would happen if. No, there was no if. Lung Ruoxue would definitely win. Otherwise, she would not be so certain. After steadying his wavering emotions, Dongfang Yu told himself with unusual certainty that he must believe in Lung Ruoxue's decision, because she was Master Yes disciple. Lung Ruoxue glanced at Dongfang Yu, Uncle Lien, and Lianjia. She could tell that they were still in a dilemma. However, they did not object to her decision. She could not help but nod in satisfaction. Even though these 3 people still had room for improvement in their trust in her, this was still a good start, wasn't it? Thanks, the reason why she wanted to fight 1 against 3 was not because she overestimated herself. Although she was a divine emperor, according to Huan Shun, her divine power was only a little more than an ordinary reverent god level. As a result, she could fight a reverent god level. In addition, her life flame was a deadly weapon to any opponent, and it could kill all opponents in seconds. Thus, after seeking the opinions of Huan Shun, Green Vessel, and Song, she decided to take down the 3 reverent god level experts in one fell swoop. In this way, he could intimidate Uncle Lien and the others while at it, and also increase their sense of belonging. After all, this world was ruled by the strong. Fighting 1 against 3, a divine emperor against 3 hierarch-level beasts. This sounded like a dark lake in the sky, and everyone would find it unbelievable. However, to Lung Ruoxue, it was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Firstly, she could better display her strength in front of Uncle Lien and the others. Secondly, she could make these beastie convinced from the bottom of their hearts. Why not? As she thought of this, the smile on Lung Ruoxu's face became even more dazzling. Following that, she said to Long Ao and the other two, "They'll give you half an hour to rest. Our battle will officially begin after half an hour." This time it was 1 against 3. She could finally have enough fun, right? Lung Ruoxu laughed to herself. To think that she had the potential to be a battle fanatic. When Long Ao heard Lung Ruoxu's words, he said, "No need. You're fighting 1 against 3. If we're resting, that's a bit too much. Then let's start now." Lung Ruoxu replied. Long Ao nodded, then gave the man in white and the reverent god who thought he was in trouble a look. The three of them jumped to the spacious area at the same time and formed a formation. When Lung Ruoxu saw this, she also jumped into the battle. When Uncle Long and the others saw this, they quickly found a good angle to watch the battle. In the middle of the battle, a beautiful woman with 3 handsome men standing opposite her. This scene was as pleasing to the eye as it could get. Then the woman moved. In an instant, several rays of majestic fire-type divine power were released from Lung Ruoxu's hands and flew towards the white-robed man. The white-robed man saw this and quickly defended himself. Long Ao and the other hierarch took the opportunity to launch their attacks. When Lung Ruoxu saw this, she calmly set up a water screen in front of her, easily blocking the opponent's attack. However, the white-robed man would not be able to block her attack so easily. Moreover, this time, in order to convince the other party, she didn't use her divine power to condense a phoenix or a dragon. Instead, she directly released the divine power that had been injected into her life flame. This kind of Shun power was even more powerful. As if they had intelligence, the Shun power split into 3 groups and attacked the man in white from 3 different directions. For a moment, the man in white was flustered. He could not look left or right, and he could not look up or down. In the blink of an eye, the white-robed man was surrounded by Lung Ruoxu's fire-based divine power. Long Ao and the other reverent god did not even have time to save him. The white-robed man's body burst into flames. A painful tiger's roar could be heard from within the flames. "Ow, it hurts!" The man in white fell to the ground and rolled around in pain. He was forced to return to his original form. When Long Ao saw this, he immediately wanted to step forward, but he was frightened by the high temperature of the flame. What kind of flame was this? Why was the temperature even higher than the natal flame of the phoenix kind, the Namling leaf fire? This was truly unbelievable. At the thought of this, Long Ao turned his gaze to the hierarch of the beast race, who was also shocked. The person beside him was one of the 2 Phoenix clan's elders who had come with him. His disbelieving gaze immediately made Long Ao's heart sink to the bottom. However, Lung Ruoxu would not give them any time to worry. She immediately sent out a few more rays of fire attribute divine power. This time, her target was the hierarch of the Phoenix clan who thought that he was unlucky. The hierarch of the Phoenix clan, who was slightly distracted, was hit by Lung Ruoxu's divine power before he could react. He fell to the ground and lost consciousness. Ugh, wasn't his attack a little too heavy? When Lung Ruoxu saw this, she couldn't help but worry. These beasts were going to be her underlings. If they were to be severely injured, wouldn't she be the one to suffer the loss? However, she couldn't understand how this person had become so fragile. She had actually been knocked down by her in an instant. This made her feel no sense of accomplishment. In reality, a hierarch couldn't possibly be so weak. However, the unfortunate hierarch's southern spirit Lee Fire immediately retreated when it was attacked by Lung Ruoxu's natal flame. When the southern spirit Lee Fire retreated, Lung Ruoxu's natal flame naturally wouldn't let the hierarch escape. Just like that, the natal flame chased after the hierarch's body, turning it into a battlefield. Thus, in a short period of time, the hierarch was already suffering. Even though he was a fire attribute beastie, he couldn't withstand such an intense collision in his body. Therefore, he was so embarrassed that he fainted from the fire. Chapter 2199. The Hearing. 1. At the same time, the white-robed man who was forced to return to his original form could not withstand the high temperature and fainted. With 2 moves, Lung Ruoxue managed to kill 2 opponents. This powerful combat strength left Uncle Lien and the others dumbfounded. One should know that both of Lung Ruoxue's opponents were Reverend God level. They weren't insignificant figures, but the fact that 2 Reverend God level experts had been defeated in 2 moves was too shocking. In reality, Lung Ruoxue was able to defeat her opponents so easily all because of her sharp and ferocious natal flame. If it wasn't for the fact that her natal flame was too overbearing, she wouldn't have been able to defeat 2 Reverend God level experts so easily, no matter how talented she was. However, a win was a win, and her natal flame was an inseparable part of Lung Ruoxue. Hence, Lung Ruoxue did not feel that relying on her powerful flame to win was cheating. However, if she did not use her natal flame, it was absolutely impossible for her to win a 1-on-3 battle. Even if she didn't lose too badly, she was afraid that both sides would suffer. When Long Ao saw how sharp Lung Ruoxue's attack was, other than being shocked, he also began to pay more attention to her. He smiled faintly and said to Lung Ruoxue, "You're worthy of me using all my strength. Come on." Lung Ruoxue laughed. Then, Long Ao became even more serious. He even returned to his original form. Instantly, a huge golden dragon occupied more than half of the sky. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she also floated into the air and looked at the golden dragon. However, compared to the golden dragon's huge body, Lung Ruoxue was still a little petite. Looking at the golden giant dragon that was many times bigger than her, Lung Ruoxue was a little unhappy. In terms of imposing manner, she was too weak. It was a pity that humans were unable to control the size of their bodies freely. Otherwise, she would not have allowed this old dragon to be the only one in the limelight. But now, she could only let this old dragon be in the limelight. With this thought in mind, Lung Ruoxue decided to jump onto Long Ao's back. When Long Ao saw this, he immediately shook his huge body up and down, trying to get rid of the little person on his back. However, Lung Ruoxue would not do as he wished so easily. She sat down and her beautiful, white hands firmly grabbed onto Long Ao's wings. Then, no matter how he flipped and turned, she sat on it as steady as a mountain. When Uncle Yin and the rest saw this, they could not understand what Lung Ruoxue was up to. "What's this little girl doing?" Uncle Yin asked with a blank look on his face. Lung Ruoxue always did things that no one could understand. However, after witnessing how Lung Ruoxue dealt with the 2 hierarch-level beasts, his confidence in her had increased greatly. But now, he couldn't figure out. "She's riding on the dragon's back. Can't you tell?" Uncle Long said with a smile. Of course I can tell. I'm asking why she's riding on the dragon's back." Uncle Yin said helplessly. "Dragon taming." At this time, Sang's voice rang in Uncle Yin's ears. Hearing these 2 words, Uncle Yin still didn't quite understand. Couldn't they just defeat the dragon directly? Was there a need to do this? However, he didn't dare to ask this question again. Otherwise, who knew what kind of reaction that rabbit would have? At this moment, Lung Ruoxue, who had been in a stalemate with Long Ao, suddenly moved again. A sword as thin as a cicada's wing and emitting a cold light appeared in Lung Ruoxue's hand. Thanks, Lung Ruoxue held the sharp sword in her hand and swiftly stabbed it towards Long Ao's back. With a crisp ding, the treasured sword only left a shallow white mark on Long Ao's tough dragon scales. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue could not help but exclaim, "This skin is not bad. Thank for the compliment." Long Ao replied speechlessly. In reality, even though Lung Ruoxue's attack did not cause too much damage to his dragon scales, he felt an intense pain in his body. It was a pain that pierced his heart and bones, a pain that reached his soul. However, he could not show it. From the corner of its eyes, it could not help but steal a glance at the sword in Lung Ruoxue's hand. At first glance, the sword did not seem to have any special features, but why did it hurt so much when it was stabbed? Long Ao couldn't figure out. This shouldn't be the case, right? This was too illogical. It knew better than anyone else just how hard its dragon scales were. In the entire divine realm, there were not many divine weapons that could harm it, and for magical beasts, any part of their bodies was their weapon. For example, the dragon breath, dragon scales, and dragon claws on their bodies. Once a supreme emperor-level divine beast was promoted to a godly venerable rank, the weapons they had would definitely be better than the divine weapons made by human craftsmen. Moreover, their weapons were born with them, so they would naturally have the highest degree of compatibility with them. Therefore, Long Ao, who was extremely confident in his own weapons and equipment, was a little unsettled after he suffered internal injuries. However, it tried its best to hide it and did not want to show it. Whose scale is tougher, you or your current Dragon Emperor? Lung Ruashua suddenly asked again. Of course, it's the Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor's strength is the highest in our clan. Even though Long Ao did not understand why Lung Ruashua had asked him this question, he still replied in a very serious manner. Oh, if I have the chance, I'll definitely go and take a few of his scales and make a set of armor for myself. Lung Ruashua mumbled to herself. When Long Ao heard this, he was speechless and lost for words. Just as Long Ao was distracted, Lung Ruashua used her sword to stab at his thick and hard dragon scales. Although she only left a few scratches on his body, Lung Ruashua seemed to be addicted to it. Long Ao's heart twitched in pain, but he forced himself to not show any signs of pain. When Lung Ruashua saw it, she thought that it really didn't hurt at all. Then, she jumped down from the dragon's back with a depressed look on her face and floated in the air. Immediately after, several rays of fiery red divine power passed through the thin tip of the sword and flew rapidly towards Long Ao. Instantly, Long Ao's heart turned pale with fright. The heat of the flames still left a lingering fear in its heart. It was also clear that its two companions had been defeated by Lung Ruashua's flames. Hence, the moment it saw the flames, it immediately became alert. At the same time, it spat out a scorching dragon's breath. When Lung Ruashua saw the dragon's breath, she neither dodged nor dodged. Instead, she allowed the dragon's breath to hit her body. In an instant, the dragon's breath had engulfed Lung Ruashua. When Uncle Lien and the others saw this, they immediately cried out in alarm. Heavens! Quickly hide! Uncle Lien was so anxious that he jumped up. He wished he could go and help Lung Ruashua. However, the evildoer held down the anxious Uncle Lien and glared at him unhappily. What's the hurry? Don't ruin Shui Heir's plans. Upon hearing this, Uncle Lien blinked his eyes in grievance. How did he ruin that girl's plans? He wanted to help. Chapter 2200. The hearing, too, but the next second, Uncle Lien fell silent. This was because he had seen with his own eyes how Lung Ruashua, who had been bathed in the dragon's breath, had actually absorbed it. She had even let out a sigh of satisfaction, as if she had just eaten a delicious meal. Not only were Uncle Lien and the others stunned by this scene, even Long Ao was dumbfounded. Even if the temperature of his dragon breath was not as high as that of this girl's flame, it could not be absorbed by others so easily. Long Ao was even more unsettled. All of a sudden, it felt a bone-piercing pain from its body. It was even more intense than before. At this moment, it suddenly realized that it had forgotten about Lung Ruashua's deadly flames because it was too shocked that Lung Ruashua had absorbed its dragon breath. This kind of distraction was absolutely a great taboo in a battle, and now it was suffering the consequences of its own actions. In an instant, a purple flame that was half the height of a human rose from Long Ao's body. The flame quickly enveloped Long Ao, and Long Ao, who was in the midst of the flame, naturally felt as if he had fallen into hell. The searing heat and the overwhelming pain would soon drown Long Ao. Soon after, he lost consciousness again. He unconsciously twisted his huge body and crashed into the wall of the underground city as if it could alleviate the pain. When Uncle Lien saw this, he couldn't help but shout, "Don't hit the wall! Damn it!" However, The clear awareness in Long Ao's mind had long been replaced by the boundless pain. Therefore, he did not know what he had done at all. At this time, all his actions were based on his instinct. Soon, Long Ao passed out. Seeing this, Uncle Lien's heart, which had been in his throat, finally settled down. It was a good thing that the walls of the buried city were quite strong, and it was also a good thing that the old dragon had fainted. Otherwise, if the dragon had crashed into the walls for a while longer, the walls of the buried city would have to retire in glory. At the thought of this, Uncle Lien could not help but wipe away the cold sweat on his forehead. There was now a hint of respect in his eyes as he looked at Lung Ruoxue. Yes, it was reverence. 3 reverent god-level experts had been easily killed by Lung Ruoxue. This was such a miraculous thing. It was also something he didn't even dare to imagine. At least, he admitted that he did not have that ability. Yet, Lung Ruoxue had done it. Furthermore, it was done with the strength of a divine emperor. If this little girl were to advance to reverent god level, then wouldn't none of the reverent god level cultivators in the divine realm be her match? This fact made Uncle Long's heart, which was filled with respect for Lung Ruoxue, burn with passion. Lung Ruoxue was truly Master Yes disciple. She already had such strength at such a young age. It was laughable that they had looked down on her just because she was a woman. Now that they thought about it, Uncle Lien's old face was burning. He really wanted to find a hole to hide in. They had really misjudged Lung Ruoxue. However, at this moment, Uncle Lien also secretly decided that he must follow this girl's footsteps closely in the future. Even if she was impatient with them, they had to stay by her side. Otherwise, they might really be estranged from her. Thanks, Uncle Lien's wish was beautiful, but reality was cruel. Lung Ruoxue and the people around her were vengeful. His wish to follow Lung Ruoxue's footsteps would not be easily realized. In the following period of time, Lung Ruoxue's spiritual beasts took the initiative to clean up the battlefield. All the spiritual beasts that were unconscious were piled up into a pile. As for Long Ao and the other 2 who were unconscious, they were left alone. Why is the spine so hot? Uncle Long walked over to Long Ao's group of 3 and glanced at their miserable state. But he's still alive, Uncle Long added. Hearing this, Long Ju couldn't help but roll his eyes. He thought to himself, isn't she still breathing? That girl was still counting on them to recognize her as their master, so she naturally wouldn't kill them. However, he really sympathized with these 3 guys. Although he had lost the battle, compared to the 3 of them, the 3 of them were definitely lucky. It was also wise of them not to choose Lung Ruoxue as their opponent back then. Otherwise, there would be 3 more reverent god-level cultivators lying on the ground. At this moment, Long Ju could not describe his feelings towards Lung Ruoxue. His feelings were rather complicated. Although Lung Ruoxue had defeated Long Ao and the other 2 because of her terrifying flame, that was also her own ability, wasn't it? If he had such a flame, he might have been overjoyed to the point where he couldn't even find the north. In comparison, Lung Ruoxue seemed to be keeping a low profile. At the thought of this, Long Ju's gaze could not help but turn towards Lung Ruoxue, who was standing calmly at her original spot. He did not feel any rejection towards the fact that she was about to become his master. However, he felt that this was because the strong were respected. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue didn't say anything for them to acknowledge her as their master. Instead, she turned around and walked into the underground city. Once she left, the demon and the rest naturally wouldn't stay outside. In an instant, only Lung Ruoxue's beastie, Dongfang Lin, Dongfang Yu, Uncle Lien, and the other captives were left outside the huge city gate. The reason Dongfang Lin and the other 2 stayed behind was naturally to deal with the captives. The 2 leaders in Yaoji were directly locked up in the deep underground prison by Dongfang Lin. Long Chun and the others were invited into the guest house. Of course, their movements were also restricted to a certain extent. In the days that followed, Dongfang Lin and the others seemed to have forgotten about their existence. No one came to the guest courtyard at all. Lung Ruoxue did not even appear at all. Long Ju and the others did not take this situation seriously at first, but as time passed, they were somewhat at a loss. Who would say that they would recognize a master, but not ask? Was he not afraid that they would run away? Of course, they definitely wouldn't dare to think of running away. However, the feeling of being ignored and being a loss about the future wasn't a good feeling. On a certain day, the three Reverend God level experts who had passed out had finally woken up. Even though they had taken healing pills, it still took them several days to wake up. From this, it could be seen how badly injured they were at the time. After the initial confusion, the first thing they did when they woke up was to try their best to recall the situation of the battle. However, no matter how hard they racked their brains, there were always one or two pieces of memory that they couldn't remember. Later on, it was only when Long Ju recounted the battle scene to them that they had a slight impression. Then, the white-robed man, who was still in his original form, immediately checked his body. With one look, he cried, "Ooh, its snow white, beautiful fur was gone. What replaced it was a body of black, bare skin. Its fur, its smooth and soft long fur, had disappeared without a trace. They were all burned by the scorching flame in his memory." Chapter 22:01. The Hearing 3wa. The originally beautiful white tiger cried so hard that it shook the heavens and the earth. Seeing this, Long Han and the others were all speechless. What's it a cry about? Didn't I also become a black phoenix? The Phoenix Clan's supreme divinity tried to comfort the crying white tiger with a helpless look on his face. However, the white tiger didn't appreciate it. Instead, it complained angrily, "How can I be the same as you? I'm white. Moreover, even though you've turned black, your feathers are still there." Phoenixes could be reborn from the ashes, so their feathers were not afraid of fire. However, its fur was... This was also the main reason why it didn't like phoenixes. The hierarch of the Phoenix Clan, who already felt that he was unlucky, felt aggrieved when he heard the white tiger's words. He couldn't help but mumble, "I said I would admit defeat." Yes, he didn't want to fight Lung Ruashua at all. The impression of being instantly defeated by her man was too deep. Hence, he instinctively cowered in his room. The fact had also proven that his sixth sense was right. That little girl was just as terrifying. Compared to the monster who killed him in an instant, he was even better. Stop arguing. What's the point of complaining now? He had better think of a way to meet that girl. We've been ignored for quite a few days. Seeing that they were about to start quarreling, Long Ju hurriedly reminded them. "What do you mean?" Long Ao asked in confusion. "We're captives now. After that girl had people throw us here, she didn't care about us anymore." Long Ju complained. "Maybe she's busy." Long Ao was calm when he heard Long Ju's words. "I think she has forgotten about us," the white tiger said unhappily. The tone of its voice was full of resentment. Of course, it didn't realize it, and the others didn't think anything was wrong either. But in fact, their reactions were very abnormal. They seemed to have accepted the fact that they were about to have a master and were very dissatisfied with their master's cold treatment of them. However, they absolutely did not realize that the self-righteous beast even felt that it was acting like this because its pride had been hurt. Then what should we do? Should we take the initiative? The hierarch of the Phoenix Clan suggested after hearing the white tiger's words. As soon as he said this, everyone present fell silent and fell in a deep thought. After a long time, Long Ao said, "Let's go see that girl. After all, she will be our master in the future." "All right." Upon hearing this, the others nodded their heads in unison. Then, the white tiger transformed back into its human form. After washing up, they prepared to leave the guest courtyard to meet Lung Ruashua. However, before they could step out of the guest house, they discovered a very serious problem. They did not know where Lung Ruashua was, and where could they go to meet her. "Are you guys going out?" Suddenly, a curious voice rang in their ears. Long Ao and the others raised their heads and saw Dongfang Lin and Dongfang Yu standing at the entrance of the guest courtyard. "We want to go and see Lung Ruashua." Long Ao laughed awkwardly. "Oh, it just so happens that we're also planning to look for her. let's go together," Dongfang Lin said enthusiastically. Although he hadn't come to see them these past few days, he had arranged for people to monitor them in secret. He knew that they were very obedient, so he had temporarily put down his guard against them. He naturally knew why these people wanted to see Lung Ruoxue. In reality, his eldest brother had the same goal as them. However, those who went to see Lung Ruoxue recently were all denied entrance. Hearing that Dongfang Lin was willing to bring them to see Lung Ruoxue, the few headless supreme divinity beasts were naturally overjoyed. Then, they followed Dongfang Lin all the way to Lung Ruoxue's residence. After walking for a while, they had become much more familiar with the Dongfang brothers. Since both sides had the intention of befriending each other, they naturally had a pleasant conversation and were all happy. However, when they arrived at Lung Ruoxue's residence, only a few hierarch-level beasts were allowed to enter. Dongfang Yu was instantly depressed. As he watched the hierarch leave, Dongfang Lin patted his big brother's shoulder affectionately and consoled him. "I think Shui has something important to tell them since she agreed to meet them. Let's go back first. When Shui has time, come again." "All right." Dongfang Yu nodded dejectedly. He knew that what his brother said made sense, but the disappointment in his heart did not lessen much. However, who could he blame for this? At this moment, Lung Ruoxue, who was in the living room of her own residence, naturally had no idea about Dongfang Yu's low mood. She was currently staring at several supreme gods of the beast race. The 6 hierarch-level beasts had come together. After they were invited into the living room and sat down, apart from Long Mo and Long Ao, who were relatively calm, the other 4 looked unusually nervous. There was still a faint trace of fear in their eyes as they looked at Lung Ruoxue. Every time Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes swept over them, their hearts would jump into their throats and they would be on tenterhooks. The pressure that Lung Ruoxue gave them was simply too great. Thanks when they thought of Lung Ruoxue's terrifying flames, their hands were trembling. Lung Ruoxue stared at them silently for a long time before she finally spoke. "You guys came to see me just to stare at me?" Lung Ruoxue teased him casually. Upon hearing this, 2 hierarchs couldn't sit still. Cold sweat trickled down their foreheads and their faces turned pale. Seeing them like this, Lung Ruoxue was even more bewildered. She tried her best to recall if she had done anything to them, because one of them happened to be the Phoenix clan's old ancestor. However, no matter how much she thought about it, Lung Ruoxue didn't think that the Phoenix clan's old ancestor had any reason to be afraid of her. After all, the people who had taught him a lesson were the demon and Feng Zhan, and had nothing to do with her. As such, Lung Ruoxue felt that she had been wronged. The way she looked at the Phoenix clan's old ancestor also became a little unfriendly. After being glared at by Lung Ruoxue like a knife, the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan shuddered. Then, he lowered his head subconsciously and did not even dare to lift it up. Seeing him like this, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but laugh to herself. This reverent god of the Phoenix clan was so timid. At this moment, Long Ao, who had been calm all this while, looked at his useless companions with a headache. Then, he said to Lung Ruoxue directly, "We're here for the master recognition matter. There's no hurry. You won't be able to escape anyway." Lung Ruoxue said with a smile, "Ugh, you're not in a hurry, but we are." One had to know that it didn't feel good to be hung up like this. Moreover, they didn't want to live under someone else's roof. "I wonder if Miss Lung has any other requests for us." Long Ao couldn't help but probe. After all, from his point of view, Lung Ruoxue wasn't in a hurry to make them recognize her as their master because she was still dissatisfied with them. "Follow me." Lung Ruoxue did not answer Long Ao's question directly. Instead, she stood up and walked out of the living room. She led the way, while Long Ao and the rest followed behind her, not knowing what was happening. Lung Ruoxue led them around a few corners. Before long, she had brought the 6 of them to the underground prison. The light in the underground prison was extremely dim, and there was a trace of soil and blood smell. At this moment, the smell of blood was especially strong. The 6 of them were all people who had experienced hundreds of battles. Naturally, they were not surprised by such a place. However, They did not know why Lung Ruoxue had brought them here, until Lung Ruoxue brought them to the door of one of the cells. There were 3 people locked up there, 2 men and 1 woman. Long Ao and the others naturally knew these 3 people. However, at this time, the 3 of them looked extremely miserable. Their clothes could no longer cover their bodies, and their bodies were a bloody mess. It was almost impossible to tell that they were human. Even Long Ao and the others, who had been through hundreds of battles, felt like vomiting when they saw them like this. "Cute master, you've come." At this moment, Baby, who was guarding the prisoners in the cell, immediately jumped into Lung Ruoxue's arms when it saw her. Song, who was a step slower than it, immediately released its pressure in dissatisfaction and glared at Baby with a warning look. However, in front of its cute master, it naturally had its master's support, so although Baby's little body was shaking very badly, it was not afraid of it. Seeing this, Song immediately felt that his majesty was seriously challenged. He was about to increase the pressure, but in the next second, he fell into a warm and soft embrace. Instantly, the angry Tsang Mao was smoothened. Long Ao and the other hierarch felt helpless when they saw Tsang happily lying in Lung Ruoxue's arms and looking at the little purple fox that was occupying the other half of Lung Ruoxue's arms. It seemed like the competition between the beasts was very intense. "Go in." Lung Ruoxue glanced at Long Ao and the rest, then took the lead to enter and find a place to sit down. Long Ao and the others also found their own places. At this moment, Uncle Long, who was in the corner, walked over and smiled at Lung Ruoxue. "Are you going to start the interrogation?" "Yes." Lung Ruoxue nodded. Then Uncle Long took the initiative to accept this task. He even had a small notebook in his hand. It was filled with all kinds of records. Of course, it was all about the performance of these 3 people. The reason why they had chosen to interrogate the 3 of them at this time was because Long Ao and the others had taken the initiative to come to their door. In fact, ever since the dust had settled, Lung Ruoxue had been waiting for them. As for the interrogation this time, it was specially arranged by Lung Ruoxue for Long Ao and the others to see. In the early stages of the interrogation, the 3 of them were naturally in deep trouble. When Long Ao and the rest heard the conversation between Lung Ruoxue and Uncle Long, they understood why Lung Ruoxue had brought them here. They were here for the hearing. Chapter 2202. Inside Story 1. Moreover, it was probably not just for the hearing. Perhaps they wanted to use the mouths of these 3 people to tell them some other things. Long Ao had thought about this very clearly. At this time, Uncle Long looked at Long Ao and the others indifferently. Then, he turned his eyes to the 2 men and a woman who were tied to the pillar. The 2 men and the woman were unconscious. After Uncle Long fed them a pill, the 3 of them slowly woke up. Uncle Long had only given the 3 of them ordinary healing pills to ensure that they could be interrogated normally. Although their external injuries still looked very scary, in fact, their internal injuries were at least half healed. Yaoji had just woken up and was still not used to the dim light in the cell. After a short moment of confusion, her dazed eyes gradually focused. Then, she saw Lung Ruoxue sitting diagonally opposite her. "Lung Ruoxue, you bitch. You actually dare to appear in front of me." Yaoji cursed at Lung Ruoxue the moment she saw her. The hatred in her eyes was so intense that Long Ao and the other 5 were in disbelief. What exactly did that last Lung Ruoxue do to that woman? Why did this woman have such a strong hatred for her? The 6 of them had only met Yaoji once, so they were not too clear about the grudge between her and Lung Ruoxue. However, from the looks of it, the grudge between the 2 of them seemed to run quite deep. But what puzzled them even more was that Lung Ruoxue didn't seem to have much of a reaction to Yaoji's curses. This was truly unbelievable. The few of them really wanted to stand up for Lung Ruoxue and teach this woman who spoke vulgarly a lesson. After all, Lung Ruoxue was going to be their master soon. No matter how deep the hatred between the 2 of them was, as Lung Ruoxue's beasts, they naturally could not allow anyone to insult their master. However, When they saw that the rabbit and the other beasts in the cell did not move after hearing her words, they did not dare to act rashly, in case they spoiled Lung Ruox's plans. However, this feeling of holding back was really uncomfortable. Yaoji, I don't understand. I saved your life, so why do you hate me so much? You're clearly repaying kindness with ingratitude. You're an ungrateful wolf. At this moment, Lung Ruoxiu asked with a faint smile. She had already taken in Long Ao and the other five's reactions. Her question could be considered to have answered their doubts. Ingrate? Hee hee. So what if I'm an ingrate? So what if you saved me? Do you think I can't hate you because you saved me? I hate women who are prettier than me the most in my life. Even if she is my savior, I will not be grateful to her. What's more, you're the disciple of the highly regarded Master Yu, and you stole all my glory. That's why I hate you even more, especially Dongfang Yu and the others, who were all bribed by you. They're all on your side. What about me? What am I in their eyes? I've been through so many hardships with them for so many years, and they abandoned me just like that. All of this is because of you. Yaoji roared madly. The hatred and madness in her eyes were frightening, but Long Ao and the others were speechless after hearing her words. However, Long Ao and the other five were smart enough not to ask any more questions and chose to continue listening. Thanks. Have you ever thought about why Dongfang Yu and the others were disappointed in you and why they abandoned you? Lung Ruoxue continued to ask. It's because I poisoned the people of the buried city. The poison wasn't heavy at all, and I did it to frame you. Why can't they understand me? At the mention of this, Yaoji's anger rose. In order to punish me, they even wanted to imprison me for life. It wasn't easy for me to escape from Raimeis. How could I want to be locked up again? Don't even think about it. Yaoji added. You hate them too? Lung Ruoxiu asked with a look of understanding. Right. I also hate them for treating me like this in order to please you. It'd be a wonder if I didn't hate them. Yaoji's voice was filled with hatred. They didn't do it to please me. They punished you because you've done something that disappointed them. For your own selfish reasons, you poisoned your own companion. I believe that no force would allow such a thing. Moreover, they've already shown you mercy for the sake of your many years of friendship. However, with your personality, it's only natural for others to be good to you. If they're bad to you, it's their fault, right? Lung Ruoxue said indifferently. That's right. I've been through so many hardships with them for so many years. It's only right that they're good to me. Besides, why should I let a little girl like you ride on my head? You want me to serve you as my master? No way. Yaoji spoke the truth. Out of everyone present, she was the one who opposed Lung Ruoxue the most. Other than the fact that Lung Ruoxue was prettier than her, Lung Ruoxue also gave her a deep sense of danger. She felt that her special position in the hearts of Dongfang Yu and the others was seriously threatened. Therefore, she could not tolerate Lung Ruox's existence. This was probably the so-called repulsion of the opposite sex, and a mountain could not accommodate two tigresses. For Yaoji, only a woman with an extraordinary status like her was enough. Other women didn't need her. So, not only did you betray me, but you also betrayed your companion who had been through so many hardships with you. Don't you feel anything when you see your companion's junior die in front of you? Don't you feel guilty? Lung Ruoxue asked aggressively. They were the ones who let me down first, so why should I feel guilty? What's wrong with me selling them out? I was forced by them. Yaoji didn't think she was in the wrong. In her heart, she was the biggest victim and the most innocent one. Uncle Long, they'll leave the rest to you. After Lung Ruoxue asked what she wanted to know, she didn't want to talk to Yaoji anymore. Instead, she handed over the authority to continue the interrogation to Uncle Long. Uncle Long smiled and nodded. Then, he continued Lung Ruoxu's topic. What did you say to Wu Jing? Ha ha ha. I've told you everything I know. I've told her everything, including your identity, your location, the whereabouts of Dongfang Yu and the others, and this underground city. All right, and that Totoro. You must not have thought that when Wu Jing found out that we had seen the Totoro, she was so angry that she was about to explode. Yaoji laughed wildly. She would definitely answer all his questions and not hide anything. because she was very clear that this time she was doomed. Falling into their hands, they would never let her go. Since that was the case, she would not let them have an easy time either. She might as well tell them everything and let them live like stray dogs in the future. This was her plan. I don't know when you became so close to Rhyme. Your hatred seems to be even deeper, right? Uncle Long couldn't understand the structure of this woman's brain. How could she think of colluding with Wu Chun? What kind of way of thinking was this? Chapter 2203. Inside Story 2. That's right. I do have a grudge against Wu Chun, but the people I hate the most right now are you. So of course, I have to get rid of you first. Yaoji answered truthfully. In fact, there was one more thing that she didn't mention. She didn't intend to join the Fog City. Instead, she was captured by the people of the Fog City after she escaped from the Black Fog City. She knew that she would definitely die if she fell into the hands of the Fog City. Since it was Lung Ruoxue and the others who caused her to fall into such a miserable state, why would she bother hiding their whereabouts for them? Therefore, she decided to use the information she knew in exchange for a chance to live. Who knew that after Wu Jing found out about this? Although she didn't kill her, she almost sucked her blood dry, causing her to turn into a state that was neither human nor ghost. She thought that it was all because of Lung Ruoxue, so she blamed it all on Lung Ruoxue. Thus, she became even more hostile towards Lung Ruoxue. There was no lack of such people in this world. They couldn't see their own mistakes. Even if they did something wrong, they would find all kinds of reasons for themselves and put the blame on others, as if others were always wrong and they were always right. If others couldn't follow her wishes, it would be a great and unforgivable crime. Yaoji was exactly that kind of person. In the past, although she didn't see eye to eye with Wu Yin, the divine master Yu, who she had always admired, was still alive. Therefore, she would more or less hide her nature and didn't dare to go too far. But now that Master Yu had fallen and Wu Xian had become their mortal enemy, and she was the woman with the highest status on Dongfang Yu's side, her sense of superiority had been greatly enhanced. Lung Ruoxue's appearance had caused her to feel a strong sense of danger. She felt that the fruits of her victory were about to be snatched away, and her position was about to be replaced by someone else. In her heart, the reason why Lung Ruoxue could easily gain the approval of others was because she was Master Yes disciple. Without the halo of being Master Yes disciple, no one would recognize Lung Ruoxue. It was precisely because of this thought that her mind was extremely distorted and unbalanced, which led to her series of actions later on. In short, it was all because of jealousy. Did the mist give you any benefits? Uncle Long couldn't help but ask. After hearing Yaoji's words, even someone as knowledgeable as him couldn't bear it. This woman was really too crazy. Fortunately, Uncle Long didn't know what Yaoji was thinking. Otherwise, he would be even more depressed and scared. However, even if Uncle Long didn't know, it didn't mean that Lung Ruoxue wouldn't know either. Qing Ju, who had been reading Yaoji's mind, had told her everything in detail. After she heard it, she had already sentenced Yaoji to death in her heart. However, she wouldn't let Yaoji die so easily. Ha ha! She promised to let me deal with Lung Ruoxue. Uncle Long's question made Yaoji laugh madly with extreme pride. Then, her eyes became dazed again. She had obviously fallen into some beautiful fantasy. You believe that? Lung Ruoxue, who had been listening for a long time, finally spoke indifferently. Why wouldn't I believe it? Do you know how much she wants to catch you? Ha ha! Even if you kill me, she won't let you go because she already knows of your existence and the people around you. If I die, you won't have a good life. Lung Ruoxue's cold words caused Yaoji to snap out her daze. Then, she looked at Lung Ruoxue smugly, as if she had seen Lung Ruoxue's end. You don't have to worry about whether we'll have a good life or not. But I know that you'll definitely live in hell in the future. Lung Ruoxue said. She had already made up her mind. No matter if Yaoji was dead or alive, she would suffer in hell. There was no way she would die a happy death. She would definitely make Yaoji suffer a fate worse than death. You want me to live in hell? What right do you have? Do you think it's that easy to go to hell? Not only was Yaoji not afraid of Lung Ruoxu's words, but she was also disapproving of them. After all, only the dead could go to hell. She didn't think that Lung Ruoxue would bear to kill her. Seeing her like this, Uncle Long sympathized with her. Thanks, what right did Schwer have? Of course, it was because of the dark mistress fiancé, whoever he wanted to make suffer in hell. It was just a word from that evil doer. What an ignorant woman. He didn't even know Shui Er's background and dared to betray her. If this wasn't courting death, what was? I don't know if it's easy to go to hell, but I'm sure you can go. After looking at Yaoji for a moment, Lung Ruoxue said with a half-smile, "Oomph. You don't need to scare me. Just kill me if you want to. After all, people will eventually go there after they die." Yaoji said, fearlessly, "Do you want to die? I'm sorry, but I'm afraid your wish won't come true." Lung Ruoxue said, feeling very troubled, "I knew it. You can't bear to kill me." Hearing Lung Ruoxu's words, Yaoji replied with a hint of pride. Clearly, she didn't understand the hidden meaning behind Lung Ruoxu's words, nor did she think that Lung Ruoxue wanted to send her to hell alive. However, Lung Ruoxue didn't care if Yaoji understood her or not. She gave Uncle Long a look, and the latter understood and knocked Yaoji unconscious again. Then, everyone's eyes turned to the two black-clothed leaders. The two men in black couldn't even pretend to be unconscious after taking the pills. They had also heard the conversation between Lung Ruoxue and Yaoji. They weren't stupid and knew what they wanted to say. However, due to their fear of fog ice, they didn't dare to say what they wanted to say like Yaoji. "Are you going to tell me? Or do you want me to ask?" Uncle Long's dark and sharp eyes swept back and forth between the two black-clothed leaders as he spoke indifferently. The two leaders stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. "Pa!" With a crisp sound, a black and shiny whip appeared in Uncle Long's hand. The whip was as thick as a baby's arm, covered with sharp spikes and emitting a bloody smell. Some of the spikes even had a few pieces of minced meat hanging on them, which was creepy to look at. At this moment, the whip was still cracking from Uncle Long's strikes, making it even more eerie. As for the two black-robed men, when they saw the black whip, they began to tremble unconsciously, their eyes revealing an intense fear. "Do you want me to ask?" Uncle Long asked again as he swung the long whip in his hand. The evildoer had lent him the whip. In his words, it was the soul-beating whip used only in the 9 Nether prison. It was mainly used to whip the souls of prisoners or those who had committed heinous crimes. The person who was being beaten could not bear the pain that went deep into his soul. Even a reverent god could not escape. Chapter 2204 Inside Story 3 After testing it a few times, Uncle Long found that the whip was indeed useful. Therefore, he almost never left his hand when he was in the cell. When he had nothing to do, he would use the whip to scare the two leaders. As a result, when they saw the whip now, they were instinctively afraid. I said, "I'll confess." A leader of the men in black couldn't stand the fear and immediately gave in. Although they were afraid of his lord was far away and beyond their reach. But now, they had fallen into the hands of these evil demons. If he did not tell them the truth, he did not know what kind of torture he would be subjected to. These days, they were really scared of the torture. "You should have been this obedient earlier." Uncle Long nodded in satisfaction. Master," the leader of the men in black had only said a few words when he heard Uncle Long's voice. He was so frightened that he immediately changed his words. "It's not my lord. It's a rhyme. Wu Chun said that we should kill all of you. However, we should leave Lung Ruoxue, Dongfang Yu, Dongfang Lin, and a few other important people alive. Wu Chun wants to deal with them personally. Wu Yin also told us to be careful of the existence of Totoro. If we see it, we should not attack for the time being," the leader of the men in black carefully added. After a long time, he finally told them everything he knew. After he finished speaking, he seemed to be relieved. He thought to himself, "These people won't be torturing me now, right? Do you have anything to add?" Uncle Long turned his attention to the other leader of the men in black. The other leader of the men in black was still a little hesitant, but seeing that his companion had already explained, he naturally couldn't hold on any longer. "Speak quickly," Uncle Long shouted. Seeing the other party stutter and look at him in fear, he couldn't help but get angry. "I said, they'll talk." The leader of the men in black hurriedly said, his heart trembling in fear. Then, he continued, "Wu Xian told me to let the magical beast be our cannon fodder. Well, let the magical beast deal with Dongfang Yu and the others. We will only need to capture Lung Ruoxue. This is our main mission." After saying these words, the leader of the men in black sneaked a glance at Long Ao and the others. Sure enough, he saw that the faces of Long Ao and the others had all darkened to varying degrees. The old Phoenix ancestor, who had a bad temper, was so angry that he shouted out, "Fuck you, Rhyme. You actually want to harm us. I'm not trying to harm you. Your king has agreed to this." The leader of the men in black whispered, "What did you just say?" Hearing this, Long Aahan immediately stood up and questioned him with a dark expression. "Your king agreed. You're all cannon fodder they sent. Why else would they send you out?" The leader of the men in black said with some sympathy, "Motherfucker, what do you know? Can you explain everything to me?" Hearing this, the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan shot up from her seat in anger. She grabbed the black-robed man's shoulder and roared. The man in black closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then he opened his eyes and said, "Long Ao is hated by the Dragon Emperor because the woman that the Dragon Emperor has taken a fancy to likes him. Long Chun is too close to Long Ao, and the Dragon Emperor is afraid that he will stand up for Long Ao. Thus, he sent them out together. What about me? And why was I sent out?" The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan asked anxiously. "You're too stupid. You always make the Phoenix King angry in public, but because of your strength, the Phoenix King can't punish you in public. So, he could only take this opportunity to send you out. As for the other reverend god of the Phoenix clan, he's just a nobody. He doesn't have much of a presence in the Phoenix clan, so the Phoenix King used him to make up the numbers." The black-robed man spoke the truth. As he spoke, he looked at the two hierarch-level experts of the Phoenix clan with even more sympathy. "What about us?" The white-robed man also stood up and asked, "You're too much of a threat to the Tiger King, and you're too popular in the tribe. The Tiger King has long found you an eyesore. The other one is also a bystander." The man in black said carefully. After saying this, he lowered his head so that he would not become their punching bag. "Damn it! How do you know so much about these things?" Long Ao's eyes turned cold, and he asked a very important question. "The Divine Master's estate has an intelligence department. We know the situation of every reverent god of the beast race. I happen to be one of the people in charge, so you can't hide your situation from me." The leader of the men in black was very honest. In any case, he had already said what he should and shouldn't have said. Therefore, he had nothing else to worry about. Since he had fallen into their hands, he had no hope of surviving. Now, his only hope was that they would let him die a quick death on account of his cooperation. Hearing this, Long Ao and the others fell silent. However, their expressions were obviously not good. After all, this kind of betrayal did not feel good. "Thanks seeing them like this," Lung Ruoxue said very kindly. "Today's interrogation ends here." After saying that, she walked out of the cell. When they returned to their residence, Lung Ruoxue was hugged tightly by a pair of strong arms the moment she entered her room. "How's the effect?" the demon asked with a faint smile. He didn't want to go to the prison, so he stayed in the room and waited for Shui. It's not just good. I've also learned a lot about Rhyme Ice." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Even though she pitied Long Ao and the rest, the inside information that the leader of the men in black had revealed was very beneficial to her. As for the matter regarding Wu Chan, it was naturally Qin Ju who had read her mind. However, she didn't intend to let too many people know about what had happened in the fog. Where are the few supreme emperor-level beasts? Have they made their choice? The demon asked again. "I didn't ask them, because they've suffered quite a big blow," Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. Originally, her main purpose of bringing Long Ao and the others to the hearing was to let them understand the grudges between them and Fog Ice. However, The two leaders of the men in black didn't give much information about this, and Yaoji was only complaining and scolding her nonstop. Therefore, Long Ruoxue believed that Long Ao and the others probably only had a rough idea of their identities. However, the things that the leaders told them about Long Ao and the others were completely out of Long Ruoxue's expectations. However, the consequences of her words made her very surprised. This way, it would be easier for her to subdue Long Ao and the others. In fact, her plan was to arrange for Long Ao and the others to go back to their respective clans as spies. However, she also knew that this was easy to think about but very difficult to do. Long Ao and the others might not be willing to do it, but now it seemed to be much easier. However, she had always been kind to Beastie, so she was not willing to force Long Ao and the others. Therefore, she did not dare to make a conclusion on whether they could really be used by her. However, if they still wanted to be loyal to the current king of their respective clans under such circumstances, she did not want to force them. After all, everyone had their own ambitions. If one wanted to be blindly loyal, outsiders could not stop them. As she thought of this, Long Ruoxue's attitude towards this matter grew increasingly indifferent. When the demon heard Long Ruoxue's words, his curiosity was piqued. He could not help but ask, what kind of blow did they receive? When she heard his question, Long Ruoxue explained the entire situation to the demon. When the demon heard this, he could not help but laugh. This was a good thing for them. According to what you said, they should be back in their rooms, licking their wounds now. The demon laughed. It should be. When I left the cell, they were still standing there like idiots. Long Ruoxue nodded. Ai, what a pitiful fellow. The demon sighed with a look of sympathy. I feel that this is very normal. The current kings of the dragon race, white tiger race and phoenix race, were all people who betrayed their previous kings. Since they have such a past record, it's not hard to understand why they can't tolerate anyone else. Furthermore, I've also heard that the three races have been at odds with each other for a long time. Therefore, it's not hard to understand why their kings would take this opportunity to eliminate their enemies. Long Ruoxue analyzed. Yup, the more chaotic they are, the better it is for us. But now that Rhyme Ice already knows your identity, we can't continue to hide in the dark. This was also what the demon was most worried about. After all, the current Xue was unable to fight against the fog ice. Even if he and Song were by her side, they could only ensure Xue's safety at most, but they couldn't easily attack the fog ice. To him and Song, the price of attacking fog ice was very high. Unless they had no other choice, they could only hide in the dark to protect Xue. As for Green Vessel, it had yet to recover to its peak state. More importantly, Green Vessel's strength was not reflected in its combat ability. Dream Dust was the same. To others, Huan Chun was very powerful, but he was also no match for Fog Ice. From the looks of it, only Xue was able to deal with the Fog Ice and was most suitable to deal with it. However, Xue's current strength was clearly not enough to compete with the Fog Ice. More importantly, Wu Jing already knew Xue's identity, which was quite disadvantageous to Xue, and at the same time increased the danger of Xue. Chapter 2205, Choice 1. When the demon thought of this, his clear black eyes could not help but flash with worry. However, that strange emotion was quickly hidden by him. He knew that he could not easily reveal his low emotions, otherwise it would cause great pressure to Xue. Moreover, with him around, he would do his best to protect Xue. At the thought of this, the demon took the initiative to change the topic to Dongfang Yu and the others. He asked, Xue, when you plan to take in Dongfang Yu and the others? I think they can't wait any longer. When do you think is the right time? Long Ruoxue asked, seeking the demon's opinion. Even though she still had some hidden grudges in her heart, she felt that those people had learned their lesson after this incident. Moreover, she had also neglected them for a long time. Hence, she did not intend to make things difficult for them anymore. After all, it was a huge test for her to receive so many resentful gazes every day. Long Ao and the other hierarch of the beast race have been dealt with. During this time, let them suffer a little more. The demon said after thinking for a while. Yes, we have to let them remember this profound lesson. Lung Ruashua nodded. Actually, for Master's sake, even if they weren't too polite to her, she wouldn't hold it against them. However, she couldn't stand their petty kindness. If they hadn't been soft-hearted and let Yaoji off, those people who had sacrificed themselves for the underground city wouldn't have died. Although Uncle Lien and the others had already suffered from the condemnation of their conscience, that could not save the lives of those who had fallen. Besides, since it has already happened, what's the point of regretting it? There was no medicine for regret in this world. Lung Ruashua did not appreciate the way Uncle Lien and the others did things. Not only was he self-righteous, but he was also soft-hearted. She really couldn't understand why a person like Uncle Lien, who was already an all-powerful expert in her master's era, would still be so childish in his actions. Not vicious enough? Sometimes, she often wondered if it was because they were not decisive enough that they were controlled by the fog and became its prisoners. Also, she couldn't understand her master's indulgence of fog. However, her master had already passed away. No matter what she thought, she would respect her master's choice at that time, even if she didn't agree with it. But in the future, how to deal with fog eyes would be up to her. Now that things had come to this, Lung Ruashua was very clear that she and Wu Jing were natural enemies. The opposition between her and Wu Chun was inevitable. Even if she didn't take the initiative to find trouble with Wu Chun wouldn't let her off. There were too many things on her that Wu Xian coveted, and her strength was not high now. Therefore, Wu Xian would definitely not let go of this great opportunity. In the future, she would definitely have a lot of trouble. At the thought of this, Lung Ruashua felt slightly depressed. With her current strength, she would be at a disadvantage if she were to fight against Wu Yan. Therefore, she could only hope that the woman would be wary of the constraints of the laws of heaven and earth and not dare to attack her easily. This way, she would still have time to grow. However, she knew very well that she did not have much time. It was impossible for Wu Cheng to watch him grow without doing anything. If that was the case, she would be seeking her own death. She believed that she was not that stupid. And the most important thing right now was to strengthen himself. Only then could he better protect the people around him. Only then could he live freely in the divine realm. She didn't want to be chased around by the fog like a stray dog. However, the current her clearly couldn't afford to be high profile. After much thought, Lung Ruashua felt that it was better for her to avoid the fog. After he shared his thoughts with the demon agreed. Thanks then, they called Uncle Long and Dongfang Lin over to discuss the details. However, Lung Ruashua forbade Dongfang Lin from telling Dongfang Yu about it. After Dongfang Lin heard this, he could only helplessly nod his head in agreement. His heart was filled with 120,000 points of sympathy for his big brother. However, who could he blame for this? In the next few days, the atmosphere in the underground city was still gloomy. The beasts living in the guest house, especially the 6 venerate Lord-level divine beasts, were in low spirits. Seeing them like this, the other beasts were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe. They were on tenterhooks every day, praying that such days would end soon. After giving them a few days to settle down, Lung Ruashua, the demon Uncle Long, and Song finally took the initiative to visit. When the beasts in the guest courtyard saw Lung Ruashua, it was as if they had seen their savior. Their eyes were filled with tears, and they surrounded her in excitement. Upon seeing this, Lung Ruakshu's forehead was filled with black lines. What was going on? What are you guys doing? Song, who was in Lung Ruakshu's arms, looked at the passionate beasts and asked in an unfriendly tone. Nothing. Don't do anything. We're too happy. It was true. We were too happy to see Miss Lung, and were a little too excited. A beautiful white ape spoke up as the representative of the beasties. Get out of the way. Don't surround my girl. Azure angrily roared. His words were definitely powerful. In the next second, the beasts immediately scattered and looked at Azure with caution. Although they didn't know the rabbit's origin, they still had a lingering fear of it. Seeing that these beasts were very obedient, Azure nodded his head in satisfaction. Then he raised his head proudly and asked, "What about those 6 guys?" "The 6 of you are in your rooms. No one is allowed to disturb us." The white ape replied, "Oh, tell them to come out. My girl wants to see them." Azure loudly ordered, "Yes." The white ape nodded. Then it took a few beastie with it and went to inform Long Ao and the others one by one. Not long after, Long Ao and the other 5 came out of their rooms. Lung Ruashue could not help but frown when she saw the 6 of them in low spirits and dejected looks. Were their mental fortitude that bad? If she couldn't even take this blow, then she would have to reconsider whether to accept these people. Even if they were reverent gods, if they didn't have a strong heart, she wouldn't be interested in them. With this thought in mind, Lung Ruakshu's face turned stern when she saw them. "Miss Lung, please come to the living room," Long Ao quickly said. And Lung Ruashu nodded. Then she let Long Ao lead the way and followed them to the living room. Once they entered the living room, Lung Ruashue and the rest found a seat and sat down. Long Ao and the rest also sat down. However, Lung Ruashue did not take the initiative to speak. Long Ao and the rest did not know what to say either. Just like that, the few of them stared at each other. This situation made Lung Ruashue extremely depressed. Every time she interacted with them, it would start with them staring at each other. Each of these beasts was more depressed than the last, and now they seemed to have a kind of mood called sentimentality. Chapter 2206, Choice 2. After a long time, Lung Ruashue and the others drank cup after cup of tea. After drinking God knows how many cups, Uncle Long finally couldn't take it anymore. "I say, don't you guys have anything to say?" Uncle Long couldn't take it anymore and asked. If they kept silent like this, he really wanted to beat someone up. We don't know what to say." Long Ao sighed and whispered, "As a man, I naturally say what I want to say. Look at what you guys are like now. Weren't you just abandoned by your king? How big of a deal was it? Your current king's throne was also usurped. You should know that sooner or later, you will have to return it. Sooner or later, they will have to return what doesn't belong to you. So I think it's good that you've been abandoned by them now. At least, you have a chance to make a new choice. Of course, if you want to follow your king to the end of the road, I have no objections. I can only tell you in advance. Have a safe journey. I want to see you out," Uncle Long said calmly. Uncle Long's words made Long Aeolius' eyes widen involuntarily. When he saw that they were only staring at him and had no other reaction, Uncle Long also widened his eyes and said loudly, "Don't you understand what I mean? Could it be that he was being too reserved? You should know my identity by now, right?" Lung Ruashue asked indifferently. Long Ao and the other 5 looked at each other and then nodded in unison. Before they came here, they only knew that they were here to help the Divine Lord Mansion to suppress the rebels. However, they did not pay attention to who the rebels were. Instead, they treated it as an ordinary mission. After all, the divine world was under the control of Wu Xian. Wu Xian's words represented the Divine Lord Mansion. Those who live in the divine world could not disobey the Divine Lord Mansion's will no matter what. However, after arriving here, they felt that the encirclement this time was unusual. Especially after hearing Dongfang Yu's name, they suddenly realized that the rebels were none other than the war god of the immortal realm, Dongfang Yu, and the others who had disappeared for hundreds of thousands of years. They might not have seen Dongfang Yu in person, but they were not unfamiliar with his name. Furthermore, they did not think that anyone would dare to impersonate Dongfang Yu or use his name, because that was a great taboo in the divine realm. The other day in the prison, they had also heard from Yaoji that Lung Ruashue was the disciple of the previous divine master. Combining all these facts, the identities of Lung Ruashue and her group were confirmed. In reality, they were in low spirits these few days not only because they found out from the leader of the Men in Black why they were sent to assist in the battle. There was another more important factor: Lung Ruakshu's identity. Right now, the Dragon Clan, White Tiger Clan, and Phoenix Clan were all considered Lung Ruakshu's enemies. Naturally, they were as well. Even though they were still very young when the Great War broke out back then, their family's elders had a part to play in that incident and had supported the current king's position. Once they acknowledged Lung Ruoxue as their master, they would definitely become enemies with their own family. This was something they were unwilling to do. No matter what opinions or dissatisfaction they had of the king, they could not abandon their loved ones. Thus, they've been very conflicted these days. One side was his promise, and the other side was his family. They really didn't know how to choose. It seemed that no matter which side they chose, it would not be perfect. Was there no way to have the best of both worlds? They really didn't want to be enemies with their loved ones. At the same time, he didn't want to break his promise. Lung Ruoxue could tell that they were conflicted. She smiled and said, "Now that you know my identity, you should also know how awkward your identities are. To put it more clearly, anyone who colluded with the mist ripple was my enemy. I won't let a single one of them off." Thanks hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Long Ao and the others' hearts couldn't help but skip a beat. They didn't doubt the authenticity of Lung Ruoxue's words at all. Furthermore, they had a deep understanding of Lung Ruoxue's strength. No one could withstand Lung Ruoxue's terrifying flames. As for the current Lung Ruoxue, she was merely a divine emperor, but she could already abuse reverent god-level cultivators like them. If Lung Ruoxue were to become a reverent god-level cultivator, it would probably be the end of the three clans. Thinking of this, Long Ao and the others felt even more depressed. Observing their reactions, Lung Ruoxue deliberately paused for a moment before continuing, "I've always been friendly to beasts, and I know that many of the beasts in your three clans don't know much about what happened back then. Many of the beasts who participated in that battle must have fallen. Those who are still alive should only be a small portion, right?" And Long Ao nodded. "Are there people close to you among these people?" Lung Ruoxue guessed. Long Ao nodded again. "What do they think about what happened back then? Do you regret it?" Lung Ruoxue asked. "I don't know. Many people are in closed-door cultivation. Moreover, the clan has forbidden people from talking about the past, especially the matters of the former royal family. This has already become a taboo in the clan." Long Ao spoke the truth. He knew a little about it, because he could remember things back then. So that's how it is. However, what I want to say is that if any of your relatives who were involved in the matter back then are willing to forsake the dark and join the light, I can no longer pursue their past matters. This is all on the basis of your face and the premise that you recognize me as your master," Lung Ruoxue said calmly. "Of course, if you feel that you can't convince your family and are unwilling to recognize me as your master for your family, I won't force you and will even let you go. However, from now on, you are my enemy, and I never show mercy to my enemies, even if they are beastie," Lung Ruoxue continued. After that, she didn't say anything else. When Long Ao and the rest heard Lung Ruoxue's words, they looked at her in shock. Did they hear wrong? Had Lung Ruoxue given them two choices? One was to recognize her as her master, and she would let her family go. The other was that they could choose not to recognize her as their master, and she would let them go. But from then on, they were enemies. Choose one. Long Ao and the others were so shocked that they couldn't believe what they had just heard. Was this true? Initially, they had also thought that if they went back on their word and refused to acknowledge Lung Ruoxue as their master, their time of death would not be far away. However, they did not expect Lung Ruoxue to say that she would let them go even if they did not acknowledge her as their master. How could there be such a kind woman in this world? Didn't she know that letting them go was the same as letting a tiger return to the mountains? Killing them now was equivalent to weakening the enemy's strength. This was such an obvious matter. Could it be that Lung Ruoxue didn't know what to do? If it were them, they would definitely kill them. Chapter 2207. Choice 3. But now, Lung Ruoxue had given them a choice. At this moment, the shock in the depths of their hearts couldn't be described with words. It was a very strange feeling. How should they put it? It was as if a small cat's paw was scratching the most itchy part of their hearts. They really wanted to pry open Lung Ruoxue's brain to see what was inside. How could she have such an illogical thought? And it was this illogical thought that made them even more conflicted. They really wanted to shake Lung Ruoxue to her senses and tell her that if they did not recognize her as their master, the best way to deal with her was to kill them while they were still prisoners. He definitely couldn't let the tiger return to the mountain. A woman's benevolence was even more unacceptable. However, when they saw how calm Lung Ruoxue was, they couldn't say anything no matter what. Perhaps they didn't dare to say it. The few of them looked at Lung Ruoxue with complicated feelings and remained silent for a long time. After an unknown amount of time, Long Ao finally could not help but open his mouth to confirm, "Miss Lung, if we don't recognize you as our master, will you really let us go? You won't regret this?" "Of course. I've never done anything that you'll regret. I said that I'd let you go, so I naturally won't force you to stay or kill you." Lung Ruoxue nodded. "They'll still say the same thing. You can choose one of the two." Lung Ruoxue added, "We need to consider." Long Ao said softly, "Yes, you'd better think it over carefully, because once you've made a decision, I won't allow you to regret it." After Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she gave the demon and Uncle Long a look. The three of them stood up at the same time and turned to leave. When they finally returned to their residence, Uncle Long had just entered the room and could not wait to ask Lung Ruoxue, "Shwe, you're really letting them choose one of the two? What if they chose not to recognize him as their master? Are you really going to let them go?" "Of course." Lung Ruoxue smiled and nodded. That's like releasing a tiger back to the mountain." Uncle Long said anxiously, "What's the matter? If we can take care of them now, we will do the same in the future." Lung Ruoxue said confidently. In fact, the reason why she was so confident was largely because she knew that most beasts kept their promises. These 6 people were venerable emperor-level divine beasts and were naturally very proud. How could they let themselves go back on their words? Furthermore, even though she had not spent much time with the 6 of them, Lung Ruoxue was very clear that they were not blindly loyal. It was impossible for them to not have any reaction after being treated this way by their king and continue to work like a slave for others. However, they had still been conflicted for so long, which proved that there was something else that was bothering them. After meeting them today, Lung Ruoxue naturally understood the true reason for their dilemma. That was why she had said those words earlier, and this was called playing hard to get. In contrast to Uncle Long's worry, she wasn't worried about what the 6 people would choose. Although she also believed that it was the wisest choice for them to acknowledge her as their master. If they were to lose their minds and choose not to acknowledge her as their master, she would only lose 6 subordinates. As for whether these 6 people would increase the enemy's strength, she really didn't think about it. Because in her heart, only Fog Ice was her true enemy. I hope they will make a wise choice. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Uncle Long sighed. "Uncle Long, don't worry. They will." Lung Ruoxue smiled as she consoled him. "Yeah, I am not as calm as I was when I was young." Uncle Long suddenly started to complain, causing Lung Ruoxue to burst into laughter. She then said, "Uncle Long, you dare to say you're old in front of Evildoer and Azure?" These words made Uncle Long wipe his cold sweat. He really didn't dare to. In front of those two, he was also a little guy. Am I very old?" Uncle Long was speechless, but the evildoer asked with a wronged expression. "Not old. I mean, you've lived longer, but this has nothing to do with age." Lung Ruoxue's heart skipped a beat when she heard this, and she quickly consoled him. When the demon heard this, he gave Lung Ruoxue an ill-let-you-off look. However, Song's eyes were filled with tears as he asked, "Girl, then am I old?" "Thanks, you're not old. None of you are old." Lung Ruoxue broke out in a cold sweat. She was extremely speechless in her heart. "Tell me, why is this human and beast following us around for no reason?" What she said just now was just to tease Uncle Long, but she had provoked these 2 guys. Wasn't she just looking for trouble? She felt helpless. However, when Uncle Long saw Lung Ruoxue's embarrassment, he was in a good mood and laughed out loud. Seeing that she had managed to please Uncle Long, Lung Ruoxue finally felt that her words were not in vain. She also felt a little comforted in her heart. As for evildoer and song, Lung Ruashua had decided that she would try her best to lower her presence. However, what she didn't know was that when they saw Lung Ruakshu's depressed look, Evil Demon and Azure were already laughing in their hearts. 3 days later, Long Ao and the other 5 took the initiative to find him. When they saw Lung Ruashua, they said directly, "We've thought it over. We've decided to keep our promise and recognize you as our master." After thinking for 3 days, they had thought of many things and many possible outcomes. However, in the end, they still decided to recognize her as their master. The most important reason for this was that Lung Ruakshu's strength had left a deep impression on them. Lung Ruashua only had the strength of a divine emperor. Once she advanced to the reverent god realm, the kings of the 3 clans would not be her match. Hence, to them, the fate of their 3 clans was already decided. However, they could not change the fate of their kings, nor did they want to change it. However, there were still many innocent children in the 3 clans. When the rebellion occurred, the children were not even born yet. They really did not want to see those little fellows become the sacrificial lambs for someone's desire for power. Hence, in their opinion, only by acknowledging Lung Ruashua as their master could they change the fate of their loved ones and those little fellows. Once they made up their mind, their mood unexpectedly became better. After they had made their decision, they could not wait any longer and immediately went to see Lung Ruashua. "You've really thought it through? Even if your family members are unwilling to forsake the dark and join the light?" Lung Ruashua asked for confirmation after hearing what they had to say. "We'll do our best to convince them." Long Ao said, "Yes, but if they are not willing to abandon the dark and join the light, and insist on going their own way, I can promise to spare their lives on your account. As for what kind of treatment they will receive, I can't guarantee it." Lung Ruashua said the ugly words first. "Thank you, Master." Hearing this, Long Ao and the others were completely relieved. And this master was also unusually sincere. Even though they were surprised by Lung Ruakshu's promise to them, it was undeniable that Lung Ruakshu's words had convinced them. In this way, even if their elders were stubborn, they would not be afraid. "Recognize me as your master." Lung Ruashua couldn't help but nod to herself when she noticed the huge change in their attitudes. When the 6 of them heard master recognition, when they heard these 3 words, they were momentarily dazed. However, the 6 of them quickly reacted and took the initiative to sign a soul contract with Lung Ruashua, officially becoming one of her beast companions. Then, Lung Ruashua moved Fengzhan, Baisu, and the rest of their clansmen out of the bangle, allowing them to interact and build up their relationship. Fengzhan was very friendly to the 6 of them, especially to the 2 Phoenix clan's supreme gods. He treated them like his juniors. The 2 Phoenixes also remembered who Fengzhan was, so they were very respectful to him and the other Phoenixes. After that, Fengzhan started to talk about himself and Lung Ruakshu's great achievements over the years. He praised Lung Ruashua as if she existed in the heavens, but not in the earth. In the end, even Lung Ruashua, who thought she was very thick-skinned, blushed from the praise. After learning that Fengzhan was the youngest son of the former Phoenix King, the 2 hierarch of the Phoenix clan suddenly felt at a loss and uneasy. Seeing this, Fengzhan snorted coldly and flew proudly to his master's side, ignoring them. Baisu, on the other hand, had no intention of paying any attention to them since they came out. He immediately gave them a butt and buried his head in Lung Ruakshu's arms. Seeing this, Lung Ruashua could only smile helplessly. Long Ao and the others could not help but sigh. Master's beastie really liked to act coquettishly. If it were them, they would not be able to do such a thing. Even though they were sighing, they were also envious of the deep relationship these beasts had with Lung Ruashua. They did not know when they would be able to be so carefree in front of Lung Ruashua. Most of the beasts had a good conversation during this short period of time. However, Bai Fan and Bai Kuan, the 2 hierarch-level experts of the White Tiger race, were a little depressed. Bai Fan was the white-robed man, while Bai Kuan was the other reverent god from the white tiger race who did not have a strong presence. Lung Ruoxue only knew their names after she had taken them in. As for the reason why they were depressed, it was mainly because Bai Su ignored them. No matter how much they tried to please him, Bai Su would always point his butt at them. When he was annoyed, he would show his sharp claws and threaten to scratch them. This fact made Bai Fan and Bai Kuan so depressed that they wanted to bang their heads against the wall. It should be known that most of the beasts gathered in the room were from the Phoenix tribe. Bai Su was the only one from the White Tiger tribe. Therefore, Bai Su naturally became the focus of their attention. However, Bai Su did not give them any face. This scene made Long Ao and Long Min, who had not seen their tribesmen, laugh so hard that they almost rolled on the ground. As for them, they naturally lost all their face. Chapter 22:08 Receiving 1. After the gathering, the 6 hierarch experts left Long Ruoxue's residence and returned to their own courtyards. On the way back, Bai Fan and Bai Kun's faces were dark, and they did not say a word. When Long Min and Long Ao saw this, they helplessly comforted him. "You two should be content. At least we saw a little white tiger. We didn't even see a dragon." Yes, they already knew that Lung Ruoxue had many members of the dragon clan by her side. Unfortunately, Lung Ruoxue told them that those members were not by her side. She even said that she would introduce them to each other in the future. Hence, for a few hours, they were just admiring the other people bonding. That feeling of loneliness was really not a good one. Bai Fan and Bai Kuan could only nod in a daze after hearing their words. They didn't dare to provoke these two guys. Otherwise, if they got angry, they really wouldn't be able to take it. After the matter with the 6 of them was settled, Lung Ruoxue started to prepare to deal with Dongfang Yu and the others. However, she did not reveal anything before this. She only asked Dongfang Lin to bring the other beasts in the guest house to Dongfang Yu, and told him that he could let the people of the underground city contract them. Everyone in the buried city was overjoyed when they heard this, and they washed away the depression that they had felt for the past few days. The beasts knew that they could not and could not object. Furthermore, Lung Ruoxue had given them a chance to recognize their own master. Hence, the beasts were very proactive and quickly chose a human that they liked to recognize as their master. For a time, everyone was happy. After the incident, Dongfang Yu brought Uncle Lien and a few other important people to Lung Ruoxue to express their gratitude. Before they came, they were not confident at all. They did not know if Lung Ruoxue would agree to meet them. Hence, when Uncle Long invited them into the living room, Dongfang Yu and the others still had shock and joy on their faces. After they sat down, Dongfang Yu and the others were so nervous that they were at a loss. Uncle Long laughed to himself when he saw them like this. It must be known that these people in front of him were already famous and influential figures when Master Yu was still alive. But now, in front of Shui they were as restrained and uneasy as children. This was a rare sight. The evil-minded Uncle Long was openly admiring the embarrassment of Dongfang Yu and the others. He had no intention of easing the tense atmosphere at all. After all, he wasn't the one who was nervous, so why did he care so much? Moreover, he also felt that it was time to let these people learn what uneasiness was. Therefore, he watched the show with peace of mind. After sitting there for a long time, they looked at Lung Ruoxue, who didn't say a word and only lowered her head to drink her tea. Dongfang Yu and the others were so nervous that cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. What was the meaning of this? Dongfang Yu wanted to speak a few times, but his lips moved, and he couldn't say a word. Thinks it was too awkward, wasn't it? How's your discussion going? At this moment, a curious voice broke the silence in the living room. Dongfang Yu looked up and saw his younger brother, as if he had seen his savior. Originally, he had wanted Dongfang Lin to come with him, but Dongfang Lin couldn't leave and told him to come first. He said he would be there soon, so they came first. However, after he came over, he didn't know how to say it. Now that he had seen Dongfang Lin, Dongfang Yu's eyes were burning with passion. Dongfang Lin felt a little creeped out. Furthermore, He could clearly feel an extremely unfriendly gaze shooting at him. Did he ruin things? In fact, when his big brother came to find him, he had nothing to do at all. However, at that time, he did not dare to accompany his big brother because Shui had warned him not to interfere in this matter to see the sincerity of Dongfang Yu and the others. As a result, he could only apologize to his big brother. Moreover, he had calculated the time and felt that they should have had a good talk after such a long time. But who knew that everyone was silent? He didn't know what they were thinking. Did they talk or not? Or did they not come to an agreement? He felt that it was very likely that they didn't come to an agreement because Big Brother and the others were good at fighting, but they had to socialize. It was definitely not their strong suit. Lin, we haven't even said anything yet. Dongfang Yu sent a message to his brother. Then what are you guys planning? You're all grown up. Can't you even handle such a small matter? Dongfang Lin was helpless. He knew that he couldn't expect too much from them. It's hard for us to say. Dongfang Yu said. What's so hard to say? What a good reason to thank him. Can't you guys even say a word of thanks? Big brother, aren't you all too full of yourselves? It's not like hundreds of thousands of years ago when we can call the wind and summon the rain. I say, it's time for you to put down your airs. Dongfang Lin was truly exasperated. Shui had already given them a way out. Why didn't these people know how to grasp it? It's not a problem to thank her, but that girl's face was so cold. When we saw her like that, we couldn't say the words that were on the tip of our tongues. Dongfang Yu felt wronged as well. That girl's aura was too strong, and they had been rejected so many times. Therefore, a trace of fear had involuntarily formed in their hearts. Naturally, they did not dare to speak rashly. Big brother, you have to be braver. It's a knife whether you stick your head out or hide your head back. So you have to go all out. Good luck. Dongfang Lin gave Dongfang Yu an encouraging look, then cut off the voice transmission with his big brother and found a corner to sit down to lower his presence so that he wouldn't be used as a pawn. After encouraging himself, Dongfang Yu finally gathered his courage and said, Shui, we are here to thank you. Oh, for what? Lung Ruoxue played dumb. Thank you for letting the buried city's people contract the beasts. After Dongfang Yu finished his first sentence, he was able to speak the rest of his sentence smoothly. However, his heart was still beating very fast. Why didn't he realize that this girl had such a strong aura before? You're welcome. Those beasts are not free. After all, you were once master subordinates. Now that you've encountered such a disaster, it's normal to compensate you with those beasts. Anyway, I don't like those beasts. Lung Ruoxue said on purpose, making it sound as if she really despised those beastie. No matter what, we should still thank you, Dongfang Yu said with a bitter smile. He was well aware that those beasts were Lung Ruoxue's spoils of war. After all, Lung Ruoxue and her group had contributed the most in this battle. If it weren't for them, the underground city would have been filled with blood and countless of people would have died. Now, that Lung Ruoxue had given those beasts to the people of the underground city to form a contract. It was mainly because of Master Yu, and not because she looked down on those beasts as she had claimed. One must know that the number of beasts that Lung Ruoxue could form a contract with was unimaginable. Hence, it was not difficult for her to form a contract with all of them. Among those beasts, although there were no Venerate Emperor beasts, there were still quite a number of sacred beasts that were 7th level and above. There were many of them, and when they were added together, they were a considerable fighting force. Chapter 2209. Receiving it too. Moreover, if others could be like Lung Ruoxue and contract spiritual beasts without a limit, they would definitely keep these spiritual beasts in their hands. Hence, the people of the underground city were grateful for Lung Ruoxue's actions. Furthermore, Lung Ruoxue had saved the buried city's people. They would not be as ungrateful as Yaoji. Hence, Lung Ruoxue's status in the buried city had never been higher. Even those who had previously been influenced by some people and had some opinions about Lung Ruoxue, after this incident, their gratitude towards Lung Ruoxue had risen to an unprecedented level. And this time, They came with the expectations of the buried city's people. But now, Dongfang Yu felt that he might not be able to complete the task. You've already thanked me. If there's nothing else, you can go back. As expected, Lung Ruoxue asked him to leave. The moment she said that, Dongfang Yu's face turned pale. Dongfang Lin couldn't help but cover his face when he saw Dongfang Yu's performance. His big brother's performance was too embarrassing, wasn't it? You could have said that you had other things to do. He couldn't really be prepared to leave just like that, right? Dongfang Lin's heart was burning with anxiety when he saw that his big brother was not saying anything and was only looking at Lung Ruoxue with hidden bitterness. However, he couldn't interfere in this matter. He could only watch as Lung Ruoxue tortured his big brother. Otherwise, he would be the one being tortured. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside the door. A little purple fox pushed the door open and entered. Lovely master, there's a group of people outside. They say they're here to see you. Baby jumped into Lung Ruoxue's arms and reported. Let's go out and take a look. Lung Ruoxue glanced at Dongfang Yu and said indifferently. Then, she walked out of the living room first, followed by Uncle Long and the others. Outside the courtyard, there were at least a few hundred people gathered. When Qin Dong, who was Lung Ruoxue's guard, saw Lung Ruoxue and the rest coming out, he immediately reported to her with a troubled expression, Miss, they're all from the underground city. You guys want to see me? After hearing Qin Dong's words, Lung Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes and asked with a face full of question marks. Miss Lung, please make us stay. Someone took the lead and said. After that, hundreds of people knelt down in front of Lung Ruoxue. What are you guys doing? Lung Ruoxue raised her brows and asked as she looked at Dongfang Yu and Dongfang Lin. Dongfang Lin sent an innocent emoji back to Lung Ruoxue, indicating that he had no idea either. Dongfang Yu, on the other hand, was completely lost. Miss Lung has done us a great favor, and we also admire Miss Lung's valiant strength very much. Therefore, we want to recognize Miss Lung as our master, and we beg Miss Lung to take us in. The leader shouted, Who allowed you to come here and say such things? After hearing this person's words, Lung Ruoxue deliberately revealed an unhappy expression. Thanks, no one, we did it on our own. The man quickly said, What a spontaneous move. If I don't accept you, are you going to keep kneeling? Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly, her expression turning icy cold. This, the leader didn't dare to answer casually. If he answered yes, the other party would definitely think that they were threatening her. Even though they hadn't spent much time with Lung Ruoxue, they more or less understood Lung Ruoxue's style of doing things. Hence, at this moment, the leader started to regret his words. Stop. Did I overreach myself? Miss Lung, if you don't like us kneeling, we can get up immediately. However, kneeling in front of you is only to express our gratitude to you. We don't have any other meaning. I hope you don't misunderstand. At this time, another person said. The person who spoke was very young. He looked to be in his early 20s. He was a young man with a very delicate appearance and clear eyes. This youth had a fearless look on his face, and a trace of unswerving determination flashed across his delicate and pretty face. His tightly clenched fists revealed the nervousness in his heart. Although the gaze he used to look at Lung Ruoxue was very firm, but after a long time, when his eyes met Lung Ruoxue's, he could not hold on any longer, and cold sweat slowly formed on his forehead. But the next moment, the young man spoke again. Miss Lung, my family has all fallen in this incident. If it wasn't for you, who led the city lord and the others to turn the tide, I wouldn't be alive now. From the moment I was alive, my only wish was to avenge my family. Only by following you will we have the chance to take revenge. Although I'm still very weak now, I believe that one day I will be able to become your right-hand man. Please give me a chance. The young man continued. After he finished speaking, he became even more determined and bravely met Lung Ruoxue's eyes. Actually, what he had just said was only a part of his thoughts. There was another part that he did not say. Lung Ruoxue had already become his idol, a godlike existence in his heart. So, even if he did not take revenge, he wanted to stay by Lung Ruoxue's side. However, he He knew very well that at this moment, nothing could move people more than revenge. He could only bury the other reason deep in his heart. The young man thought that he could hide his thoughts from Lung Ruoxue, but he didn't know that as long as Lung Ruoxue wanted to know what these people were thinking, it was impossible to hide it. "What's your name?" Lung Ruoxue suddenly asked. This young man was quite smart. "Enchanting," the young man quickly replied. "This little fellow will follow you from now on." Lung Ruoxue glanced at Dongfang Lin and said indifferently, "All right." Dongfang Lin nodded, but Shun Jing, who was kneeling at the side, was a little confused. What did this mean? Did he succeed or not? "You can all go back. Don't kneel here." Dongfang Lin spoke again. When the kneeling crowd heard this, they could only stand up resentfully. Then they turned back every 3 steps and left Lung Ruoxue's courtyard door with great reluctance. After they left, Lung Ruoxue and the rest returned to the living room. The moment they entered the living room and Lung Ruoxue sat down, Dongfang Yu knelt down in front of her with a loud thump. Uncle Lien and the others also knelt down upon seeing this. "What are you guys doing?" Lung Ruoxue furrowed her brows and said unhappily, "These people couldn't possibly think that kneeling would be of any use, right? Miss Lung, I, Dongfang Yu, am willing to represent everyone in the underground city and serve you as my master. I hope that Miss Lung will not decline." Dongfang Yu mustered up his courage and said, "I said you don't have to do this." Lung Ruoxue said indifferently, "Miss Lung, our greatest wish is to avenge Master Yu. Not only is Miss Lung Master Yes disciple, but your strength has also deeply impressed us. So, from now on, we are willing to follow Miss Lung. I hope Miss Lung doesn't despise us." Dongfang Yu said sincerely, "Yup, Miss Lung, we were too arrogant in the past, but after this lesson, we have also realized our mistakes. I hope that Miss Lung can give us a chance. We are willing to follow Miss Lung's lead. In the future, if Miss Lung says 1, we will definitely not say 2. If Miss Lung asks us to go east, we will definitely not go west." Uncle Lien also said. Chapter 22:10 Acceptance 3. Hearing Uncle Lien's words, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but laugh to herself. Could it be that the little episode earlier had deeply provoked these experts who have been famous for many years? At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue only said indifferently, "All of you, get up. I don't like to be kneeled by others." So did he agree or not? Dongfang Yu and the rest thought to themselves at the same time. However, they still stood up obediently so as not to make Lung Ruoxue feel disgusted. In reality, Dongfang Yu's current state was not entirely due to the influence of those little fellows in the underground city. It was because he felt that they really owed Lung Ruoxue this kneel. When Lung Ruoxue had saved them, they should have done this. However, there was some unhappiness between the two parties at that time. Dongfang Yu's intestines turned green with regret. It seemed that some things really couldn't be indulged. However, he would have to bear the main responsibility if his relationship with Lung Ruoxue turned sour. Thinking of this, he felt even more ashamed. "Miss Lung," Dongfang Yu wanted to repent properly, but he was interrupted by Lung Ruoxue and changed the topic. "Have the little ones who have lost their loved ones settled down?" Lung Ruoxue suddenly asked. "Yes." Dongfang Yu nodded and was about to continue confessing. However, Lung Ruoxue did not give him the chance. "Inform everyone to pack up and prepare to leave this place," Lung Ruoxue said without any rhyme or reason. After she finished speaking, she patted her butt and left, leaving behind a few dumbfounded men. "Big brother, let's go." Patting the dazed Dongfang Yu, Dongfang Lin said with a look of sympathy. However, no matter what, they had finally passed. "Wait, what did that girl mean? Pack your things and go where?" Dongfang Yu felt as if he was in a dream, and he was still dizzy. "Of course we're going to the land of demons. We've already been exposed here. We can't stay here any longer," Dongfang Lin explained. In reality, Lung Ruoxue had already discussed with him to bring the buried city's people out of here. However, this news was kept a secret, and other than him, no one else knew about it. Who asked Lung Ruoxue to punish her big brother and the others? Thus, he had to help her keep it a secret. But now it should be over. Hee. Shouldn't he be thanking those little guys for their unintentional actions? He had long known that Lung Ruoxue had a tough mouth but a soft heart. Otherwise, Big Brother and the rest would have a long way to go. But now, it had finally come to a satisfactory conclusion. He would no longer be stuck between Lung Ruoxue and his big brother. Isn't the land of demons that girl's territory? Where are we going? Dongfang Yu could not help but widen his eyes in disbelief at Dongfang Lin's words. Moreover, he did not dare to think too deeply about the meaning behind his words for fear that he had misunderstood. Yes, Shuai said that it's too dangerous for us to split up. If Rime Ice attacks again, we may not be so lucky. After all, Shuai can't possibly stay here forever. Dongfang Lin said, but we're also going to the land of the demons. If Wu Yin attacks there, won't we be wiped out by her? Someone couldn't help but ask after hearing Dongfang Lin's words. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he immediately received several cold glares. The person who spoke was so scared that he shrank his neck and quickly shut up. If we don't go there, we'll die even faster. Or do you have the confidence to withstand another attack from the miasma? Dongfang Lin raised his eyebrows and mocked. He'll immediately give the order for everyone to pack up. Hearing Dongfang Lin's displeasure, Uncle Lian gave him a meaningful look. Then, he was the first to escape from the living room. If he stayed any longer, it was hard to guarantee that Dongfang Lin wouldn't fly into a rage, even though that guy seemed to have a good temper. However, when he was really angry, he was also very frightening. When Uncle Lian ran away, the others saw that the situation was not good, so they also left. Especially the one who said the wrong thing. He ran away faster than a rabbit. Lin, did you and that girl reach an agreement long ago? Dongfang Yu asked after staring at Dongfang Lin for a long time. The moment he said this, he felt that he had been slow to react. Lin and Lung Ruoxue's relationship had always been much better than theirs. However, their younger brother was not willing to interfere in their matters. Didn't this already show that there was a problem? However, he had not noticed it at all. He even felt that they had angered Lung Ruoxue, so it was only right for them to step in to salvage the situation. It would also show their sincerity. But now that he thought about it, it wasn't that his brother had given them the chance to perform, but that he couldn't interfere at all. It could also be said that Lung Ruoxue did not allow him to interfere. In this case, his younger brother's performance during this period of time could be understood. Dongfang Lin nodded. He knew that it was impossible to hide this matter forever. In fact, he did not want to hide it. It was just that his big brother and the others' attention was not on him. That was why they only found out about his unusual relationship with Lung Ruoxue so late. The last time I went to look for her, she immediately acknowledged me as her master, Dongfang Lin continued. Thanks then, he briefly explained the situation to his big brother. Of course, he would never tell him that he had sold himself to pay off his debt because of a plate of hot and sour shredded potatoes. Dongfang Yu didn't ask any more questions after hearing that. He just muttered to himself, "You're far more far-sighted than us." Hearing this, Dongfang Lin broke out in cold sweat. How could he have more foresight than his big brother and the others? He only knew more about Lung Ruoxue. Otherwise, he might end up like his big brother and the rest. But no matter what, this matter was finally resolved, and he could finally heave a sigh of relief. After that, the two brothers left the living room together. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue had returned to her room with the demon. The moment they entered the room, the demon immediately pulled Lung Ruoxue into his arms and said, "They're lucky." He was referring to how Lung Ruoxue had let those people off easily and did not continue to make things difficult for them. They are master subordinates after all. Lung Ruoxue laughed helplessly. She didn't intend to make things difficult for them. At most, she would give them the cold shoulder. However, she didn't expect them to kneel down to her today. She knew that it wasn't easy for Dongfang Yu and the others. Other than her master, they had probably never knelt down to anyone in their entire lives. Moreover, the little guys who had lost their loved ones in the underground city had indeed softened her heart. Since she had already decided to take them in, why should she continue to make things difficult for them? It was undeniable that Dongfang Yu and the others had also borrowed their glory to a certain extent. Oomph. If they weren't the subordinates of Dummy Yu, I would have dealt with them long ago. The demon gritted his teeth. I know you love me. Seeing the demon gritting his teeth, Lung Ruoxue tried to curry favor with him. The demon took advantage of the situation and said impolitely, Then how are you going to reward me? Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes and thought to herself, Is this the rhythm of taking advantage of me? All right. Since that was the case, she didn't need to be polite. As she thought of this, Lung Ruoxue pulled down the evildoer's head and delivered her tender and alluring pink lips. Their lips had only touched for less than 3 seconds, and before the demon could even savor Shui Air's sweetness, a world-shaking, weeping roar rang in their ears. Arg! Lecherous wolf! Quickly come catch the pervert. Where's the pervert? Uncle Long ran out of the room and asked loudly. Long Ao and the others also rushed over when they heard the noise. In Nyo's room, Song, who was sitting by the window, pointed at Lung Ruoxue's room. When Uncle Long heard this, black lines immediately appeared on his forehead. He didn't need to ask to know who the pervert that Senior Song was talking about was. How could he be so stupid to run out of the room on reflex? In fact, this wasn't the first time Azure had done this. Uncle Long really wanted to lower his presence and sneak into his room without making a sound. However, even if he knew the situation, it did not mean that Long Ao and the others knew it as well. Therefore, when Long Ao and the rest heard Song's words, they all nervously ran towards Lung Ruoxue's room and forcefully opened the door. Master, you didn't get taken advantage of by a pervert, did you? The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan asked after she entered the room. Long Ao and the others knew that they had been reckless when they saw the couple in the room. They had been fooled by the rabbit. At this moment, they were also at a loss. They wanted to leave the room, but they found that their legs went soft under the angry glare of a certain demon. Get out! Long Ao and the others immediately ran away, as if they had been granted a special pardon. The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan finally reacted and ran away faster than a rabbit. The 6 of them ran back to the guest courtyard, their hearts still beating wildly. What do we do? In the room, the 6 people looked at each other and said in unison. This time, they seemed to have offended that evil man. Woo! Thinking of the cruelty of a certain evildoer, the 2 unlucky supreme gods who had once been abused couldn't help but tremble. They had been on tenterhooks for 2 days. It was only when Lung Ruoxue summoned them that they dared to appear in front of her. This time, Lung Ruoxue met them in her own room. The moment the 6 of them entered the room, they couldn't help but look around. When Lung Ruoxue saw their expressions, she laughed lightly and teased, The demon isn't here, don't be afraid. Chapter 22:11 Creating a Wound 1. When the 6 of them heard this, they instantly felt extremely embarrassed. They were thin-skinned, and a faint blush appeared on their handsome faces. When Lung Ruoxue saw this scene, she laughed even more happily in her heart. That day, after they ran away, her place was in a state of chaos. The demon and Song, a man and a beast, chased and fought for 2 whole days, but the demon's anger had not subsided. Today, Lung Ruoxue was afraid that the demon would show his displeasure to these unlucky fellows who were used by Tsong and scare them. Hence, she did not let the demon appear. However, it seemed that although the demon was not here, his deterrence was still there. Ever since these 6 people had sat down, they had actually been restless. As a reverent god, wasn't this a little embarrassing? At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue continued to tease, The 6 of you are reverent god level, and my fiancé is only a divine emperor. Do you have to be so afraid of him? Master, some people's strength can't be measured by their levels. Just like you're also a divine emperor, but you still killed the 3 of us. Hearing this, Bai Fan couldn't help but grumble. It was quite embarrassing to talk about this matter, but fortunately, the person they lost who was already their own master. It was only right for him to lose to his master. He consoled himself. I was just lucky. Without my natal flame, how could I be your opponent? Lung Ruoxue spoke the truth. The reason why she was able to defeat Long Ao and the other two was not because of her own strength. Master, I don't like to hear these words. A win is a win. You have such a powerful life flame, which is also a part of your strength. Others want to have it, but they can't get it. Bai Fan said as he glanced at the two hierarch of the Phoenix clan. The fiery-tempered old ancestor of the Phoenix clan was immediately enraged when she received Bai Fan's disdainful gaze. She roared, "You damn cat, what's with that look?" "Nothing, I'm just looking around," Bai Fan said with a faint smile. He didn't take the old Phoenix ancestors' anger to heart. Are the Phoenix race and the White Tiger race really that incompatible? Seeing the two of them bickering, Lung Ruoxue facepalmed and said helplessly, why would Master think so?" Bai Fan asked with a puzzled expression. "The two of you started fighting as soon as you saw each other. Bai Su and Feng Zhan as well. When those old phoenixes saw the two of you from the White Tiger race, they were also extremely excited." Lung Ruoxue voiced out the question in her heart. Actually, she had wanted to ask this question for a long time. This varies from person to person. Although the relationship between our two races can't be said to be very good, we still wear the same pants in critical moments. Bai Fan said slowly, "Sometimes the beasts all wear the same pair of pants." Long Ju coldly added after Bai Fan finished speaking. You're going against me on purpose, aren't you?" Long Ju's words made Bai Fan slightly angry. However, Long Ju said with a smile, "Why would I? I'm just telling the truth. Understand, you beasts don't get along well most of the time, but when there are foreign enemies, you can still unite against them. This is what you want to express, right?" Lung Ruoxue glanced at the three people who were about to explode and said with a look of understanding. Thanks Long Han, Bai Fan, and the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan were all rendered speechless upon hearing this. Long Ao, on the other hand, couldn't help but laugh out loud. Only today did he realize that this young master of his was quite interesting. It seemed like it was a wise choice to acknowledge her as his master. Long Ao's laughter made the three of them even more embarrassed. However, the tense atmosphere from before had also dissipated by a lot. Lung Ruoxue saw this and cleared her throat. She said seriously, "All right, let's get down to business." Upon hearing this, the six of them immediately became serious and put on a well-behaved expression, as if they were all ears. Seeing them like this, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but secretly laugh. "You guys can go back tomorrow." Lung Ruoxue continued. "Go back." Upon hearing this, the six of them were stunned. Where are they supposed to go? However, the six of them then realized that Lung Ruoxue was probably asking them to return to the clan. "Master, you don't want us anymore?" The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan was an impatient person. She didn't think too much about it and asked directly, "Why would I not want you guys? Didn't you guys already acknowledge a master?" Lung Ruoxue was a little speechless. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. No wonder the current Phoenix King didn't like this guy. This guy's intelligence was really a headache. "But you told us to go back." The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan felt wronged and accused. I'm asking you to go back and be my eyes, do you understand?" Lung Ruoxue felt that she had already made herself very clear. However, when she saw the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan still shaking her head, she suddenly felt like going crazy. How low was this guy's intelligence? You don't even understand these words? Following that, Lung Ruoxue heard the Phoenix clan's old ancestor's voice filled with endless resentment. "Master, I can't be a spy. Although my status in the Phoenix clan is not low, to be honest, the Phoenix King will not tell me anything. In his eyes, I'm just a thug. If there's something important, he won't let me know." When the child finished speaking, he started to choke up. He looked at Lung Ruoxue as if he had found his parent. No matter how he looked at it, he looked like a child who was complaining to his parent. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she started to sympathize with the Phoenix clan's old ancestor. Ai, how pitiful. He was a reverent god after all. So how could he be in such a miserable state in the clan? Or could it be that there were too many reverent god level spirit cultivators in the Phoenix clan, so much so that this kind of unintelligent reverent god wasn't welcomed? At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue could not help but ask, "Do you have a lot of hierarch experts in your Phoenix clan?" "Not much, including me, the Phoenix King, the elders, and the senior who is in closed-door cultivation. There are only about 10 of us." The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan counted with her fingers. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she thought to herself, this isn't a lot. Compared to the major human forces, the number of reverent god-level cultivators in the Phoenix clan was quite high. No wonder Godfather always said that the strength of the Beast clan was above that of the human clan. This could be seen from the number of reverent god-level cultivators. "Master, the current beast race is on the decline compared to the powerful beast race in the past. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, before the war, the number of reverent god-level beasts in our 4 races added together was more than twice that of the human race. However, in that war, many of the reverent god-level beasts were lost, and many of them were seriously injured. It may not seem like much to outsiders, and they may not think that the strength of the magical beasts has been reduced. However, as a member of the magical beasts, we know very well that the current magical beasts are not as strong as before." Long Ao, who knew what Lung Ruoxue was thinking, explained with a disappointed look. In his opinion, it was very normal for the magical beasts to be stronger than humans. After all, the history of the magical beasts in the divine realm was much longer than that of humans. Their talent and cultivation was also much better than many humans. Even so, it was extremely difficult for the magical beasts to advance to the hierarch level. Chapter 22:12. Creating a Wound 2. Otherwise, the number of reverent emperor-level divine beasts in the Beast clan would not have remained at around 100 after so many years. Of course, this was only on the surface and did not include the unknown, low-key, and sealed reverent god-level divine beasts. Although Long Ao's words represented the current state of the magical beasts, in Lung Ruoxue's heart, she still felt that the magical beasts were still extremely powerful. It was just that the magical beasts were not as united as before. This should be their greatest weakness. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly and said, "In your hearts, the magical beasts may not be as strong as before, but compared to the human race, the magical beast's strength has not weakened by much. Furthermore, I believe that you all know that the magical beasts are not lacking in strength." "Yes, I am." Long Ao did not deny this. "That's why I want you to return to the beast race as my informers. Of course, you don't have to report everything to me in detail. I only want to know about the collusion between your current king and Fog Ice. That's enough." Lung Ruoxue's words were very straightforward. She didn't want the 6 of them to think that she was asking them to do something that was disadvantageous to the various races. Even though the nature of their actions was similar, she wasn't targeting their race. In addition, you'd better befriend all the clansmen who oppose your current king. This will be of great help to us in the future. Lung Ruoxue added, "That's not a problem, but I'm not sure if I could find out about the deal between the Phoenix King and Rhymice." The ancestor of the Phoenix clan said, "Honestly, it's fine. Just do your best. You don't need to take any risks. I also don't want your identities to be exposed. Otherwise, they'll just let you go back for nothing. As the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse." Although she really hoped to overthrow the ruling of the Phoenix, Dragon, and White Tiger race, this was definitely not an easy task. After all, the king of these 3 clans had ruled the clans for many years. His power had long spread throughout the clans. It was not possible to overthrow them in a day. She was well aware of this and knew that this matter could not be rushed. "Master, we will try our best." After Long Ao heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he promised on behalf of the 6 of them. When they returned this time, he knew that their mission was very important. Furthermore, they also had the mission of convincing their loved ones. After all, they did not wish to stand on the opposite side of their loved ones one day. However, This would require time and opportunity. Yes, don't force yourself. Safety first. Lung Ruashue warned worriedly. Then, her beautiful eyes stopped on the hot-tempered old ancestor of the Phoenix clan for a moment. Out of the 6 of them, she was the most worried about this fellow. The old ancestor of the Phone clan felt Lung Ruakshu's gaze and lowered his head in embarrassment. However, he then thought of something very important. If he didn't clarify this, his heart would feel like it was being scratched by a cat. Master, what kind of beastie is that rabbit of yours? Why can't the 6 of us break through its barrier? The Phoenix clan's old ancestor asked shamelessly. The moment he said this, the other 5 people's gazes immediately focused on Lung Ruakshu's face. It was obvious that they had been curious about her for a long time. Seeing them like this, Lung Ruashu laughed evilly and kept them in suspense. What do you guys think? As far as I know, the rabbit tribe is very weak, and it's impossible for such a powerful rabbit to appear. Or perhaps your rabbit only looks like a rabbit, but it's not a rabbit. Master, am I right? The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan said in high spirits. Well, you're right. It's not a rabbit. Lung Ruashua laughed. Who would have thought that this stupid-looking phoenix would be able to find out the truth so quickly? What kind of species is it? In the divine realm, I've never seen such a mystical beast. When the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan saw that she had guessed correctly, her mood was lifted instantly. Her little body was straightened as if she had done something great. You know about the God-protecting tower, right? Lung Ruashua asked with a smile. And the 6 of them nodded in unison before their eyes widened in unison. In the deity world, there was no one who didn't know about the God-protecting pagoda. Thanks, Master. Is that rabbit related to the God-protecting pagoda? Long Ao asked carefully. It's the spirit of the God-protecting tower, Tsong. After Lung Ruashua revealed her answer, the 6 of them fell into a daze. After a long while, the 6 of them finally came back to their senses. The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan couldn't help but exclaim, so that rabbit is the guardian tower spirit. Then it's not an injustice that we lost to it. It was more than not wronged. The God-protecting tower spirit had existed for as long as the God world had been created. Compared to their beast race, it definitely had a long history. It was not something they could compare to. Moreover, according to the legends, the strength of the God-protecting tower spirit was unfathomable. If they wanted to defeat the God-protecting tower spirit, they were daydreaming. However, they would never have thought that the legendary Great Guardian Tower Spirit was actually in the shape of a rabbit. This made the trace of worship in their hearts develop a little strange emotion. The feeling of worshiping a rabbit was really not good, even though it was a powerful rabbit. Lung Ruashua laughed when she heard the Phoenix clan's old ancestor stammering her conclusion and the obvious unwillingness in her voice. Actually, Azure's appearance isn't a rabbit, but a Totoro. Although she didn't know if Totoro's appearance was Tsong's real appearance, it was still easier to accept than a rabbit. She also did not want her new subordinates to fear rabbits. That was not a good sign. Totoro. The moment she heard those 2 words, the old Phoenix ancestor jumped up in shock. Is it the Totoro that has destroyed the Divine Lord's residence more than once? The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan couldn't help but ask. This is it. Lung Ruashua nodded. Well, we've been fooled. If we had known that Totoro was with Master, we wouldn't have come. The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan said with a bitter face. Unfortunately, it was too late to say anything now. Since Wei Yin knows my identity, she should also know of Tsong's existence. However, she didn't tell you. She must have deliberately hidden it from you. Lung Ruashua said with a hint of sympathy. These 6 people were not only pushed out by the various clans to be cannon fodder, they were even schemed against by the Fog Ripple. What a pitiful child. This is also quite good. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten no master. Long Ao said after a moment of hesitation. When Lung Ruashua heard this, she raised her brows and thought to herself, is this considered self-consolation? Oh, in fact, it was good that they could think this way. It was better than becoming enemies with her in the future. Actually, you should feel lucky. At least compared to the other clansmen, you have the upper hand. Lung Ruoshua consoled. Yup, master. In the future, if any other clansmen acknowledge you as their master, you must not let them surpass us in your heart. Otherwise, he'll be upset. The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan said in a carefree manner. Very quickly, he had forgotten about his earlier depression and started to joke around with Lung Ruoshua. Chapter 22:13. Creating a Wound 3. Of course, compared to your clansmen, you are definitely more important. Lung Ruoshua also teased. This is good. The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan was satisfied. By the way, how much do you know about the Qilin clan? Lung Ruoshua continued to ask. Master, the Qilin clan has always kept a low profile. Currently, they don't have a deep relationship with our three clans. Therefore, we don't know much about the situation within their clan. However, in that great war hundreds of thousands of years ago, the Qilin clan should be the only one among the four great king divine beasts that didn't participate. Long Ao said after thinking for a while. They weren't bribed by the mist? Lung Ruoshua asked in surprise. She didn't think that the fog ripple would let go of such a powerful beast like the Qilin clan. For the fog ripple, that would be a huge loss. We're not sure about that. However, the Qilin clan has been keeping a low profile for a long time. However, after the Great War that happened hundreds of thousands of years ago, the Qilin clan seemed to have become even more low-key. They even rarely participate in the collective activities of the Beast clan. Other than the elite gathering last time, where they sent people to participate, the Qilin clan has already rarely moved around the divine realm. Long Ao explained patiently. I see. Lung Ruoshua nodded. Master is also interested in the Qilin clan? Long Ao asked curiously. Yes, knowing yourself and knowing your enemy will lead to 100 victories. Although the Qilin clan may not be willing to be on good terms with me, it is still necessary to understand the situation of the Beast clan. Lung Ruoshua said calmly. Master, the Qilin clan is extremely proud. They look down on humans, so you'd better not have too much hope for them. The Phoenix clan's ancestor couldn't help but remind him when he heard this. In fact, what he didn't say was that the Qilin clan didn't even have much contact with the Dragon, Phoenix, and White Tiger clan, let alone interact with humans. That was simply impossible. I know. As long as they're not used by fog, I don't care about their attitude. Lung Ruoshua chuckled. Don't worry about that, master. The Qilin clan will never listen to Wu Cheng's orders. Otherwise, our three clans wouldn't have only sent Reverend God-level experts to help us. Long Ao said honestly. After hearing this, Lung Ruoshua nodded and took out a few pills. Before you leave tomorrow, take these pills. The six of them received the pills curiously. Then, they looked at Lung Ruoshua with question marks on their faces. Lung Ruoshua laughed. After taking this pill, you will feel as if you've suffered a heavy injury. You'll be in a temporary coma. When you return, you can pretend that you don't know anything to prevent you from spilling the beans. Is it okay for us to pretend that we don't know anything? The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan asked worriedly. He didn't think that the Phoenix King would be so easy to deceive. Moreover, there were also beasts in the Phoenix clan who knew medicine. If they were found to be lying, they would be despised by their clan. Don't worry. If you eat this pill, you'll have amnesia and no one will be able to find out. Lung Ruoshua promised. It's that magical? The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan widened her eyes in shock and looked at Lung Ruoshua in disbelief. She then thickened her skin and said, Master, what other good pills do you have? Can you give us some more? Although the Phoenix clan was a beast of the fire attribute, and there were also beasts in the clan who were proficient in medicine, they could not refine medicinal pills. Therefore, they always spent a high price to buy medicinal pills from human alchemists. However, their financial resources were limited, so the medicinal pills in their hands were naturally tight. After hanging out with Feng Zhan and the other phoenixes for a few days, they had a better understanding of Lung Ruoshua's situation. They knew that she was not only an alchemist, but also a blacksmith. Feng Zhan ate the pills in his hands like they were snacks, which made them very envious and jealous. However, they had only spent a short time with Lung Ruoxue. Even though they coveted the pills in Lung Ruoxue's hands and were too embarrassed to ask for them, the opportunity this time was too rare. Hence, even a usually tactless ancestor of the Phoenix clan could not help but ask for it, let alone the others. The moment the ancestor of the Phoenix clan finished speaking, the other 5 people also looked at Lung Ruoxue with eager eyes. Their intentions were self-evident. Of course I have the pills, but is it appropriate to give them to you now? If your clansmen find out, how will you explain it? Lung Ruoxue reminded him with a smile. I can say that I bought it from a human alchemist. The old ancestor of the Phoenix race said after some thought. You have a lot of money. Lung Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and asked curiously. I don't have any money. The moment the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan heard this, her face fell. Then, she looked at Lung Ruoxue with an extremely aggrieved expression. Her expression was as pitiful as could be. Thanks, Wu. He was the poorest reverent god in the Phoenix clan. If someone said that he had the money to buy medicinal pills from a human alchemist, not only would no one in the clan believe it, even he himself would not believe it. It's fine if you don't have money. You can start earning money from now on. Moreover, you beasts are more sensitive to heavenly treasures than humans. So, it shouldn't be difficult to find some precious medicinal herbs, right? Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. This isn't difficult. The old ancestor of the Phoenix clan nodded in agreement. If that's the case, then if any of our clan members discover this and ask about it, then wouldn't you have a reason for the origin of your medicinal pills? Lung Ruoxue said. Then, she continued, I can give you fewer pills for now, but it's best to keep it a secret if others don't know. After all, it's not appropriate to expose our relationship. Yes, I will keep his secret. He would definitely not let anyone know. I won't tell anyone that I have a pill. The moment the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan heard Lung Ruoxue's words, she immediately promised excitedly. Lung Ruoxue nodded. In the next second, 2 small white jade porcelain bottles appeared in front of each of the 6 hierarchs. When the 6 of them saw this, they took the small bottles in their hands and uncorked them. The fragrance of the pills wafted into their noses, and they were instantly invigorated. The 6 of them were overjoyed. As soon as they smelled the fragrance of the pill, they knew that it was not an ordinary pill. Then, the 6 of them quickly stood up and said, Thank you, Master. No need to be so polite. These 2 bottles of pills, one is for healing, and the other is for replenishing Shun power. When you need to use it, don't be reluctant. After you finish it, I will give it back to you. Lung Ruoxue laughed. Master, you are the best. When the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan heard these words, she hurriedly tried to please him. Old man, you actually know how to flatter. Hearing the Phoenix clan's ancestor's words by Fan, who had always been at odds with him, couldn't help but ridicule. The Phoenix ancestor's face turned red, and she immediately exploded in anger upon hearing this. She couldn't help but yell, Damn it, you damn cat, I won't let you off. After he finished speaking, he chased after Bai Fan and started fighting. Not to be outdone, Bai Fan taunted, Tisk, who's afraid of who? Just like that, the 2 elderly supreme divinity beasts began to fight each other without a care for their image. They chased each other from the house to the outside. Lung Ruoxue saw this and tried to chase them away. All right, all you can go back and rest. We can set off for our respective clans tomorrow morning. Yes. Long Ao and the others nodded and left Lung Ruoxue's room. They also brought along the 2 troublesome fellows who were chasing each other. The moment they left, Evildoer and Tsang appeared in Lung Ruoxue's room. Looking at Evildoer and Tsang, who ignored each other, Lung Ruoxue remained calm and said, We'll leave tomorrow as well. Girl, should we announce the underground city to the public? Azure asked. Let's wait and see how Rhyme Ice will react before we decide. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. In fact, she had been thinking about whether she should expose the underground city incident. However, the chain reaction after the exposure was something she didn't want to see at the moment. At that time, her identity would also be known by the various major forces. At that time, she wouldn't be able to control what kind of reaction the major forces would have. That result was not in line with her current desire to keep a low profile. Therefore, after thinking for a long time, she decided to deal with all changes by staying the same. She would first see Wu Chen's reaction and then adjust her plan at any time. However, she would definitely not be passive and get beaten up. She only hoped that Wu Chen was smart. As the saying goes, the barefooted are not afraid of the ones wearing shoes. Compared to Gu Che, who had many people in the fog, she did not have much to worry about, except that she was not as strong as the fog. Then let's just wait for Fog to discover it. However, if that ugly monster knew that his men were all annihilated, he would definitely be so angry that he would vomit blood. Azure said with a smile, "If I can really anger her to death, it will save me a lot of trouble." Lung Ruoshua teased, "Ha ha ha, I hope Nio's thoughts will go as she wishes." Azure laughed. They all treated it as a joke because they knew that it was absolutely impossible. Ramais was not that fragile. The next day, Lung Ruoshua instructed the buried city's people who had already packed their things to move into her house. Then, with a thought, she moved her spiritual beasts out of her bracelet. The moment those small beasts came out, they did not say a word and immediately rushed towards Long Ao and the rest who were standing at the side. Before they could even react, they clawed at them. In the blink of an eye, the 6 of them were already covered in injuries. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.